Good evening. By way of introductions, my name is Matt Comcar and I'm the chair of the Planning Commission. I'd like to call to order the meeting of July 22nd, 2025. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Sizur?
Here.
Commissioner Majewski?
Here.
Commissioner Ostrowski? Absent. Commissioner Craig?
Here.
Commissioner Buckbinder?
Here.
Vice Chair Fields?
Present.
Chair Kankar?
Here. Thank you for that. Okay, minutes. Has anyone have had a chance to review the minutes? And are there any corrections?
I'll move to approve the minutes of July 8th, 2025.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Voice roll, please.
Commissioner Sizur?
Aye.
Commissioner Majewski?
Aye.
Commissioner Craig?
Aye.
Commissioner Buckbinder?
Aye.
Vice Chair Fields? Chair Kankar?
Aye. Thank you. So those minutes are approved. Next, we go to communications. Director Eastwood, do we have any communications?
Yes, Chair Kamkar, Planning Commissioners, you have received a desk item from Planner Alyssa Lohman, contains a number of correspondence. So just want to direct your attention to that. Should have been sent out this afternoon and you should have received it. And going to the next item, there is no agenda modifications or postponements.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Okay, oral communications. This portion of meeting is reserved for individuals wishing to address the Planning Commission on matters of community concern that are not listed on the agenda. In the interest of time, Chair may limit the speakers to 5 minutes for oral communication. Please be aware that state law prohibits the Commission from acting on non-agendized item. However, I may refer the matter to staff for follow-up. Are there anybody here for oral communications? Okay, don't see any hands raised. How about online? Clerk? No, not online. Okay. So we move on to our public hearing portion of the meeting. The first item is 812 Almerida Drive. That's for extension of approval. Public hearing to consider a 3-year extension of a previously approved tentative parcel map to allow the subdivision of the property into 2 new lots located at 812 Almerida Drive. This is PLN 2025-94. Staff?
Thank you so much, Chair. The item before you is an extension of approval of a previously approved standard subdivision for a single-family property. The project site is zoned for single-family residential. It's R16. It's located in the city's northern quadrant off of Almerida Drive and Pamela Avenue, bordering the Highway 17. It's an unusually large site. It's about 13,000 square feet, which is unusual for an R16 property, which is generally about 6,000 square feet. So the property owner applied for and was subsequently approved for a subdivision to subdivide the property into 2 lots. However, since the application was approved in 2022, the time limit has lapsed. And so the applicant filed for a one-time extension with the Community Development Director for 12 months. That was in 2024. And as that 12-month extension is coming to a close, the applicant is moving forward with their administrative remedies and seeking an additional approval from the Planning Commission, which exceeds the Community Development Director's authority to approve. And the request has now been referred to the Planning Commission for consideration and action here tonight. So as I mentioned, this is a second extension request for a proposed project that was originally approved in 2022. The applicant applied for this project in around May of that year, and the applicant was initially unaware of recent legislation, specifically SB 9, Senate Bill 9, which was effective January of that year, 2022. Upon learning about SB 9, the applicant began evaluating an urban lot split as part of the application. SB 9 has several allowances that differ from the regular R16 standards in terms of setbacks and other floor allowances for existing buildings. Therefore, the applicant began considering possibilities of preserving the existing dwelling rather than demolishing it as previously applied for under the previous scope of work, and was hesitant to demolish the house as it was his primary residence. As we can see here from the proposed project, the original approval here on the left shows the existing dwelling in blue with the proposed subdivision here in yellow, resulting in a demolition of the existing dwelling and with these assumed development of 2 new single-family lot split, as we see here in green. And the determination criteria here in making the decision tonight as a planning commission would be to consider whether or not the applicant has demonstrated a good faith effort to continue with the application. Staff has considered that the applicant has demonstrated a good faith effort as the applicant has provided staff with preliminary plans with demonstrating a proposal for retaining as much of the existing single-family dwelling as possible, continuing on with the original subdivision, and also seeking an urban lot split in the future. A 6-year time extension from the original approval of 2022 to 2028 does align with the Subdivision Map Act and city past practices. And the revised proposal reflects a more comprehensive view of the entire site, considering a new legislation that the applicants can utilize. Therefore, staff does recommend that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving an extension of approval. And that concludes my presentation. I can take questions at this time.
Okay, wonderful.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
can we express the transparency part,
Oh,
before we
yes.
go further?
yes, thank you for bringing that up. One of the things that we need to do is, has anyone heard from the applicant on this item in any way,
Or visited?
or visited the site? If if we can go through our disclosures for this item at this time.
Yeah, so my disclosure is I drove by this site recently, as well as the Central Avenue site.
Okay, that's the next item.
Yes, but
Okay.
covering it all.
Nothing, okay?
I used to live pretty close to here, and I'm sure I've gone by it. Also, I spoke to the applicant for item 4,
For item 4,
the pickleball court.
right, okay. Mike,
And I visited the El Marina and the central sites.
you did, okay, thank you. Vice Chair,
I've visited item 4 site.
okay. As for myself, I also visited the item 4 site, but not this one, so. Okay, so thank you for the reminder. As far as questions for staff at this time, do you have any questions?
Okay, so I just, for my edification, and maybe others, this, is the original subdivision lot split, front to back. Okay, is that done, or was that going to be done? And then after that, there would be a SB 9 type division of the front parcel? Is that how it's going to work?
Yeah, so as seen on the screen here, the right-hand side would be the revised proposal. As seen in yellow, it's a little faint here, but this was the original proposal. The applicant is still planning to move forward with the original subdivision, so the plans will not be changing at all. However, what was previously not contemplated was preserving as much of the existing single-family dwelling as possible. SB 9 does have a provision that states that properties that move forward with an urban lot split can retain as much of the existing primary dwelling as possible and don't need to maintain all required setbacks for the underlying zoning district, which at the time were specialized to the R16 property. As this is the applicant's primary residence, he had wanted to retain as much of the building as possible. The parcel map has not yet been recorded, so that's why we're asking for the extension approval tonight to keep the application alive so that the applicant can demolish as much of the house as possible until he's able to record the parcel map.
So I'm unclear on this because I've not seen a single family parcel be lot split that isn't SB9 based. So how are they doing the first lot split? Under what auspices is that being done?
Yeah, so this would be under a standard subdivision process. So as seen from the project data, the project site is about 13,000 square feet in size, which is atypical for an R16 property, which has a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. So as long as a property is able to maintain the width, the street frontage, and the minimum size, which is 6,000, a property in the past could have applied for a standard subdivision, which was a common practice.
Thank you.
Yeah, before SB9, came about, everything would be regular subdivision.
I just didn't fully understand.
Okay.
And the only other question I have is if we don't give them the extension, what's the negative repercussions to the owner? They have to reapply and there's new fees?
Yes, that's correct. So the owner would have to reapply for a new subdivision application. I believe also the Planning Commission was recently briefed on the city's updated SB 450 regulations in terms of lot types. So as Senior Planner Daniel Famer presented, the city has new definitions for lot types, which require a more standardized shape. And as you can see from this proposal, the existing lot does not fit any of these lot type allowances. So the applicant would be precluded from reapplying until such time that the city did update their code.
Okay.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? No questions at this time? Okay, thank you. Commissioner Bookbinder, would you like to go next?
So have they already done the first lot split?
So at this time, no, the existing dwelling is still standing. So in order to have recorded the parcel map, the applicant would have had to demolish the house.
Okay,
And the applicant has not demolished the house as of today. That's why they're seeking the extension to seek other options to limit the extent to which they demolish the existing dwelling.
but under a non-SB9 lot split, they would have to demolish the house so that the proposal on the right requires something that's not clear under the law?
Not exactly. The applicant hadn't considered the fact that there could be an urban lot split in addition to the standard subdivision. So now with the ability to further subdivide the property, the applicant is considering retaining as much of the single family dwelling as possible, building a new dwelling on the left-hand side as on the new parcel as seen here, and building a third parcel here. And so in the interest of retaining as much of the dwelling as the existing dwelling as possible, the applicant would like to utilize the provisions of SB9, which speak to the ability to retain as much of the existing building and not adhering to the setbacks otherwise applicable for this type of property.
So my understanding is that you can't use SB9 more than once on a parcel.
Correct.
So if you doing a non-SB9 lot split means you have to demolish the house.
Actually, I'm sorry, if I can interject 1 second. The rule is you cannot have a structure that straddles a property line. So they have to take away the portion that exceeds.
Okay,
It
so,
doesn't have to be all of it. It could be just a portion.
so removing part of the house was possible from the beginning. Okay, that was where I was a bit confused.
Sorry, yeah, correct. It was possible, which is now what the applicant has come up with in their holistic design to build 2 new dwellings, and retain as much of the existing dwelling as possible.
Gotcha.
Any other questions or that's it?
Yeah, Larissa, I just got a couple of questions really regarding the lengths of our approvals, because it's getting confusing and we know it's so hard to build nowadays. So, so in 2022, we approved a parcel map, and that gave the owner 2 years to get a building permit and to record the map.
Correct.
So So that's a 2-year permit. And then I guess there's an automatic, they can apply for an automatic 1-year extension.
As approved by the community development director.
So we had the 2 years, then we had the 1 year, and now we're asking for the 3-year extension. So I can imagine that it's just good common practice for any city to only allow a permit for 1 year or 2 years because the laws are changing and you don't want things just standing there not happening. But with the fact that it's so hard to build nowadays and everything, now we got a 3-year extension. And these are coming up a lot, I think, with us, these extensions. Is there any thought to making the original approval for a longer length of time?
It's a possibility. It is how our code is written. It's a 2-year allowance for this type of permit.
And that's pretty typical. Is that like universal or is it standard or just
That
a great
is-
majority?
Yeah, that is the way the code is written as of today.
I mean, is that what the great majority of cities and counties do it that way?
I'd say, Robbie Sweet, Community Director, there's variation, of course. One thing we do need to do with a future code update is to reconcile better our permitting allowances with the Subdivision Map Act. Those are very prescriptive on how much time is allowed. As you see here, this is to conform with state law. So that is an action we need to do, and as part of that, Commissioner Craig would look at, do you get more allowance for these type of projects where it's a subdivision than just the 2 years?
Well, yeah, I know it makes sense that you don't want to allow, you don't want to give blanket approval from now till eternity. And of course, laws are always changing, et cetera, but a greater length of time seems to be pretty logical thing to start.
Not abnormal in many jurisdictions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Craig. Vice Chair?
Questions have been raised.
As for myself, I think all the questions have been answered, so thank you. You have one more question? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. The 3-year extension, is that something we normally do in something like this with it's being a residential? I mean, I could see it for a big development. 3 years, since they originally got a 2-year and then a 1-year extension, another 3 years seems like, to me, a fairly long time. What's the rationale behind picking 3 years?
The rationale was the alignment with the Subdivision Map Act with a total of 6 years from 2022 to 2028. The other determination criteria came from the applicant's own written statement, which cited financial difficulty, the fact that the primary residence, which was originally to be demolished, is his primary residence, and he wants to contemplate keeping it as much as possible, and then just concerns over existing market conditions, and to allow for some leeway to ensure that the project can continue on, considering that this is where he is seeking primary residence.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other question, I'm going to open the public hearing. Applicant presentation, is applicant here?
The applicant is here. If there are any questions for him, he can speak.
Right, you don't have to present if you don't want to, but I just want to make sure you know that you have an opportunity to give a quick presentation. If no, then any questions for the applicants before I open it to the public? No? Okay. Are there any members of the public that would like to talk on this item? Seeing none, anybody online? No, none, okay. So we go back to commissioners. Do you have any questions or no more questions, but do you have any comments before we close and vote? No?
Start at 9.
Start the other. Do you have any opinions on the issue?
I think it's interesting that it took this long, but I know that everything's been kind of slowing down because of supply chain issues and every other possible issue. For this specifically, I don't see any reason to say, no, you have to start from scratch. That doesn't seem particularly productive.
Yeah, I would just say, it seems like a reasonable request to me. Again, I do think it's just kind of random, 2 years, 1 year extension, 3 years. Be nice to have a little more uniformity in what we're, really doing here, but I think this is fine.
Regarding the specific issue.
Yes.
Commissioner Zissou?
Yeah, I mean, since the owner is living there and it's a house that's there in the neighborhood and it's not an empty field or it's not light or something, to me, it's reasonable to provide an extension, and it's kind of a clever concept for putting 2 more homes on that site. Because, it's an oversized site and you can turn it from 1 home into 3 homes. And since it's like on a dead end, it doesn't like impact the neighborhood as much, I think. Larissa, what is the idea for the back place? That would be whatever that street is, that would be addressed from on the street that is the cross street? Is that going to be a separate parcel that's going to be on whatever that street is, Palmar or whatever it is?
Almorita?
Well, no,
side street.
it's a side street that's Palmar. So that would be likely a Palmar address? Is that the way it would work? With that house fronting to Palmar?
Let's see.
Or don't you know that?
So the addressing is all contemplated by the building division, the police department, and the USPS. In terms of the frontage for the, I can
The back
show on
house.
screen. Yeah. So the frontage for this parcel here on the right would be
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Pamlar. The original concept had both of the lots fronting onto Pamlar. The new concept with the three lot configuration would have this parcel fronting onto Pamlar, this parcel in front onto Almerita, and then this parcel would
Yeah,
front onto.
that makes
Almerita as well.
sense. That makes sense. It's not the big deal. I just was curious. Okay, I'm done.
We got a little.
Yeah.
Take a few minutes recess. Thank you. All right, we're back from recess.
Sorry about
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think it's, finish off, I think it's a good potential design in the future. And so I would be supportive of an extension.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Commissioner Zisser. Since they're, living in that property, it makes sense to me that they have time to figure out the next steps and have a little time to do that.
I can make a motion,
Okay,
unless you want
no, you can make a motion, but I was gonna, do a little talk too, so you go first.
talk first.
I'll go first, okay, thank you. So, so to me, as a practicing civil engineer, I think their request is extremely reasonable. The development environment is not as easy as you might think, with interest rates being high, the government rules, the CEQA, all that stuff, adds time and money to development process. So, absolutely, anything to help them increase the housing stock, for our city, I think it's worth it. So that's my little spiel. Vice Chair?
Agreed. Make a motion, the planning commission take the following action to adopt a resolution approving a 3-year extension of a previously approved tentative parcel map, PLN 2022-47, to allow the subdivision of the property onto 2 new lots and finding the project categorically exempt under section 15315 of the California Environmental Quality Act.
I'll second it.
Excellent. We have a motion and a second. Let's do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Cesar,
Aye.
Commissioner Majewski,
Aye.
Commissioner Craig,
Aye.
Commissioner Buckbinder,
Aye.
Vice Chair Fields,
Aye.
Chair Camcar.
Aye. Okay, so that motion passes. Now I gotta go through the appeal process. If anybody needs to appeal this, do I go through the appeal? No? Normally? It's not needed? I
can
need
say it.
guidance
So
from
it's
council.
listed on the agenda, Chair Camcar. You can, but you don't have to.
Traditionally, we just say the decision is final unless appealed to the city council within X calendar days or working
In
days
the
on
next,
how it
right.
works.
So thank you. Exactly what he said. This decision is final unless it's appealed in the next 10 days with the city council, with the city clerk, in 10 calendar days. Okay, congratulations. This item is passed. On to the next one, 370 North Central Avenue. Fence exception, permit appeal. Public hearing to consider an appeal of the Community Development Director's conditional approval of a fence exception permit to allow for an 8-foot tall wood fence where a 6-foot tall wood fence would otherwise be allowed, allowing an approximately 52-foot portion of a rear property line on property located at 370 North Central Avenue. Application under consideration is an appeal, file number PLN 2025-39. Staff, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Chair. As mentioned, this is item 3, which is an appeal of a previously approved fence exception permit, PLN 2025-39, located at 370 North Central Avenue. The project site is a zone for planned development, or PD, with a general plan of low density residential. We can think of that as akin to single family residential. The development type through a PD permit is what the city would have considered as a small lot, single family planned development. It's one of 4 units off of this private street as seen here on the site plan. It is located on the east side of North Central Avenue and is generally surrounded by other single family residential land uses. So for some project background, the city received a complaint in October that the project site had a fence that exceeded the city's fence standards. In November of that year, a code enforcement case was opened by the city's code enforcement division with the request from the applicant to either remove the fence or to apply for legalization. The applicant applied for legalization in January of 2025. And in March of that year, the fence exception was approved with a condition that required the fence to be limited to 8 feet overall, as opposed to the 9-foot, 10-inch height fence, which exists there today. The subject fence was built without permits and does exceed the height allowed by the code, which is 6 feet as measured from the adjacent grade up until the tallest point of the fence. So here is the existing fence as it is today. It's on a portion of the rear yard spanning about 51 feet from the property at 370 North Central. And then as we can see from the site plan, this is the project site here as part of this planned development. And the portion of the fence spans the entire rear property line, pretty much in sync with the neighboring property at 373 Harrison Avenue. And so tonight's appeal is a request to appeal the condition by the Community Development Director, which had required the applicant to reduce the height from 9 feet 10 inches to 8 feet total. And so the applicant's written statement for the appeal was attached to tonight's staff report. However, a summary is provided here on the screen. The four main points that the applicant has provided is that there's no visual impact to the site as the fence is fully located behind the existing single-family dwelling, that the fence at the height built is necessary to protect the privacy of the existing site, that there are some exceptional circumstances as the adjacent ADU on the neighboring property is built with a setback of less than 4 feet from the property line, and that there have been some additional psychological and financial hardships that would be associated with removing the fence. In response to the appeal, as further explained in the staff report provided, despite the fact that the fence is located entirely behind the existing single-family dwelling, the height requirements still are intact. The fence height at about 10 feet tall still does have impact to adjacent property spatial and visual experience. The rear yard is still must maintain compatibility with the neighborhood in general, and to allow this exception would be quite a change from the otherwise allowable 6 feet, which are seen in most of the majority of the rear yards. Moreover, the land use exchange between this property and the neighboring property is still single-family residential to single-family residential. So there should be no reason to approve a height of this size. And that community design still regulates the relationship between private space to private space. So even though this is not necessarily visible from the public right of way, it is still under the governance of this city's zoning code, and therefore was required by the city was required to be reviewed by the community development department. And so some of the concerns with approving a fence of this height, even though it has limited effect on the overall city, is that it can create walled off spaces, which obstructs light and air. As seen from the photographs provided, this is a photograph of the subject property, the distance from the house to the proposed fence, which is almost about 10 feet. And then the distance from the neighboring ADU to the fence as well, which can create some darker, more walled off spaces as seen on the screen. The second point for the applicant is privacy concerns. The applicant has stated that the fence is essential to preserve privacy and to block all views from the neighboring ADU. The city has responded that this can be achieved through a fence of about 8 feet. A fence of 10 feet is not necessary to block any privacy or to achieve any privacy, to provide for any privacy concerns that the applicant may have. This is consistent with the city's fence standards, and any additional privacy can be achieved through landscaping or other low impact solutions. As seen, this is the view of the elevation that the applicant can see, the rear elevation of the neighboring ADU. As seen, it's a majority of a blank wall, so there are not an abundance of windows or other visual or other openings within the walls that would allow for high visibility between the neighboring ADU and the subject property, except for one door, which otherwise is a generally unobstructed wall. The third point that the applicant makes is that this is an exceptional circumstance. As noted, the adjacent ADU on the neighboring property is situated less than the required 4 feet from the property line. That's both state law and also consistent with the city's zoning code regarding ADUs. However, staff's response is that, as we've seen in recent years, state housing laws such as SB 9, SB 415 ADUs have reduced setback requirements for residential properties. Structures may now be as close as 4 feet from rear property lines, which can result in buildings as close to each other as 8 feet. This also means that buildings can be up to 35 feet tall with a 4-foot setback, which could create even more privacy and visibility concerns, and that it's not unique to this particular property. We're seeing this throughout the state of California and throughout Campbell. The primary home and the adjacent ADU, as noted, have about a 7.5-foot distance, which is consistent with the state allowance of having an 8-foot distance between two residential buildings. Furthermore, despite the fact that the ADU is located about 2.5 feet from the property line, which is less than the otherwise required setback, state law does allow for existing accessory structures that do not meet the existing setback requirements to be converted to ADUs, without rectifying that existing setback. So for instance, if a legal accessory structure with a 1 foot, no foot, or 2 foot setback is converted to an ADU, that would be allowable and the ADU would not have to be relocated to meet that 4 foot standard. Historically, the city of Campbell did not require setbacks for a lot of their accessory structures in the rear and side. It wasn't until about 2006 that the city underwent a comprehensive zoning code update, which then required setbacks for accessory structures. As a result, many of the properties within the city of Campbell do have accessory structures that have a setback lesser than the required 4 feet that ADUs are required. And therefore, these structures could be then converted into ADUs. And that setback would not need to be expanded to meet that 4 foot requirement, meaning that many properties in Campbell do have conditions similar to this, and it's not considered an exceptional circumstance. And so just to show some visibility, here's the existing building as from the plans from the ADU at 370 North Central Avenue. There's an opening here, and then here's the distance between the primary dwelling and the rear ADU. It's about a 7 foot 6 inch separation, consistent with that 8 foot requirement that we're going to start seeing in a lot of other primary a lot of other primary dwellings in R1 zoning districts. And then finally, the applicant has cited some psychological and financial hardship. The applicant states that if she is required to reduce the height of the fence, it's going to cause some financial hardship. However, the fence was built without permits, and it would have to be reassessed and potentially modified at this point regardless in order to pass building inspection. So the city anticipates there will likely be necessary changes regardless of the height condition. And then furthermore, the applicant has cited a recent fire that occurred on the property. There's a fire that occurred at 373 and 370 North Central Avenue as a reason that she wanted to install the fence for additional privacy concerns to mitigate for that issue. However, this previous fire should have no impact on whether or not the city should allow this fence and does not have any basis on the determination tonight. And so for that reason, as conditioned by the community development director, the 8 foot fence does meet all the findings for a fence exception permit. And staff does recommend that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution denying the appeal and upholding the community development director's conditional approval of a fence exception permit. The applicant is in the chambers tonight and has also prepared a presentation which she'd like to present after when we open the public hearing. And I can now take questions at this time.
Actually, I'd like to start with one quick question. You said applicant, you were talking about appellant.
Appellant, correct.
Okay, so just want to be clear. Okay, thank you for that. Any questions? Commissioner, is there?
Sure, yeah.
Start it off?
Of course I have questions. So the ADU, maybe you can go back to the ADU. So how long has that been in place?
So
What's the history behind that ADU?
that's correct. The ADU, it was originally an accessory structure that was converted into an ADU. The accessory structure, as well as part of the building at 370 North Central Avenue, underwent some fire damage that occurred in 2022. And so as part of the rebuild of the accessory structure and the ADU, the applicant has proposed a slight addition as well. However, this is, as I mentioned, the ADU was legally approved by the building division and should not necessarily be subject to the decision or creating an exceptional circumstance for this fence exception here, as it is a standard ADU in terms of ADU law and the zoning code.
Okay, so it was approved in whenever, 2022 or before, including the 2 foot setback. That was approved.
Correct. So the original accessory structure that was originally existing was a legal accessory structure with a 2.5 foot setback that was then converted into an ADU, utilizing government code and also provisions within the city's zoning code.
Can you you got that one picture where it kind of shows the side of the ADU. I kind of want to understand what's on the back of the ADU. Is that the portion that's like the garage side? What's the garage side, or that's the closer, that's the closer portion? Do you have something to show what's the back side of the ADU in
Yes.
terms of windows and doors?
Yeah, so this was, this is the rear elevation, which is adjacent to the subject property.
Okay, so what are we seeing here?
So you're
Is the
seeing
site
this
on?
covered porch right here.
Okay, and the height of the ADU?
It's 14 feet.
But that's to the peak, or is that to
That's
the,
the overall height.
and to the cover?
What,
No, I'm saying there's like a roof, there's a roof cover or something, right?
so the overall height to this ridge line from the adjacent grade is 14 feet.
And what's the lower roof line?
Sill plate.
I could pull up the plans if we want to get the exact measurement, but I believe it was around 12. But I can pull up the plans to confirm.
So even with the 10-foot fence, in theory, you'd be below the roof line, is that correct? But are there going to be below the 10-foot down to the 8-foot fence? I'm trying to figure out if there are windows exposed, whether there's a door with a window exposed.
No windows proposed at this time, and the elevation is limited in the number of openings that it can have per fire code. And so that would have to be evaluated if the applicant came in with any sort of proposed renovation to the existing ADU.
So are you saying that the ADU has a blank back?
Correct. This is the rear elevation as it was approved.
Okay, so there's no windows, there's no doorway,
There is a door as
There's a door.
seen right here.
that's I guess we saw in the picture. Okay, but otherwise okay, so there's the door, but yeah, I don't know what else is there. To me, I just wanted to get an idea of what you would see from 8 feet. But it looks to me that looks like even at 8 feet, you're above the lower roof line.
It could be the difference in grade that's causing that.
Yeah, and that was the other question I had. There was somebody who put in this thing from from Harrison that said something about effectively 13-foot height. And, does that mean that there's a big elevation difference between the two streets?
Yes, after the major construction that occurred at 373, there's a slight differential between the two properties. The city zoning code for fences measures from the higher elevation. So we would allow 6 feet measured as from the higher adjacent elevation.
That's true. All right, I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Is the converting of the ADU or into an ADU, would that have been something that would have triggered like a notice to the surrounding properties?
No, that would be through ministerial action.
That was my only question.
Thank you. Commissioner Bookbinder, do you have any questions for staff before we open public?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Craig?
Yeah, Larissa, it was a good presentation. You covered a lot of things here. And I know you had a slide that showed the approval of an 8-foot fence where 6 foot would be allowed. But I guess I'm still wondering, so why did we okay? Is that typically so 6 feet is our standard fence height in most residential areas, correct?
Correct. For the zoning code, 6 foot is the highest you can go in all zoning districts.
All zoning districts.
Except for MFDDS projects, which
Okay.
do allow for greater heights.
And then when these things come up and we grant greater height, is 8 foot usually what we approve, or is there all kinds of different?
Correct. So if there are extenuating circumstances, generally 8 foot is the highest that we will approve in terms of a fence exception. Pulling in the last 5 years of fence exception
Okay.
permits. 8 is the tallest that the city has approved.
That was gonna be that's what the question I was leading to is, have we ever approved a fence exception higher than 8 feet?
So I only looked in the last 5 years
In
and
the
did
5
not
years,
see
we
any.
haven't. Another question would be, and I know that's not, it's a macro. But of course, so we got all the ADUs, we got the ADU era, which is nice for housing. And we know that the setbacks, even 4 feet setbacks, which is the standard, is very minor. And given that these ADUs will be right next to other residences, and has our city or has any city in the state considered allowing taller fences now that all these ADUs, not all these, but now that ADUs will be coming in right next to other lots? Have you heard of anything in the works on that at all?
No, I don't believe so. I don't think that's come up in terms of any of the discussions around ADUs I've had with people in other jurisdictions.
Okay, I'm just wondering, so that concept of neighborhood compatibility still remains at an 8-foot height for a fence as a maximum. That's what we're saying, that you really can't go higher than 8 feet
The city has not
and
approved
maintain
anything.
neighborhood compatibility, even with ADUs and next door and et cetera.
There could be instances where the city might want to approve a taller fence if the land uses adjacent were incompatible, but between residence to residence, the city has historically only approved ever an 8-foot tall fence.
Okay, so even if the applicant in this case had happened to build a 12.5-foot fence originally, our approval, our exception would not be halfway point between 6 and 12.5, it would still be 8 feet.
Yeah, well, we would have to
More or
look at
less.
the applicant's proposal if they were able to provide any extenuating circumstances or any rationale to meet any of the fence exception findings. However, in this instance, staff reviewed the application materials and based on the sites and the adjacent land uses determined that 8 feet was the
Okay,
appropriate.
well, yeah, I kind of putting you on the spot here a little bit, but so this whole neighborhood of neighborhood compatibility and sight lines and it gets a little nebulous, it's a little subjective, so I can see where there's room for other opinions on this, but and also that, this fence, there's a limited number of lots that'll ever see the fence, maybe 2 others in this one. But, it's fairness and everybody else has been stuck with it. Anyway, I'm getting away from questions, so I'll stop now. Thanks.
How many fence exceptions have there been in the last 5 years?
Not too many. I don't have the exact number, but we get generally around maybe about an average of 6 per year, 1 every 2 months.
Okay, great. That was my answer, the rest of mine.
Thank you. So my questions are regarding from a 6-foot to 8-foot. Do we normally require that 2-foot to be lattice rather than a solid fence?
So our design standards require an opening, a lattice, such as a lattice, when the fence exception occurs in the front property line or on the street side property line. But in the rear, we do not have any design requirements that speak to openings.
So it could be solid if the 2-foot was granted.
Correct.
Okay. And then this 10-foot or 9-foot, 10-inch fence extends only 50, 51, 52 feet. It doesn't extend the entire length of the appellant's property. It comes down, and so that was kind of questionable for me as to why wouldn't they do the whole thing if privacy was important for them? Why just in front of this one unit? Do you know the reason or?
The appellant is here and can speak more to the issue. The statements provided by the appellant, both in the initial fence exception request and in the appeal, speak strongly to the desire to block any views of the ADU from their property.
I see. So then that's their goal.
That, it looks to me like it went all the way to the property line of the other house on the other street. Not to their property. But you can see it goes to the entire back property to the edge of the other house's property. there's another house, so it seems to me that would make sense.
Well, I mean, it seems like, looking at the red line that is just behind the ADU's back rear lot line, not the adjacent one, lower one on the screen. Is that correct, staff?
Yeah, as you can see from the proposal, it extends, it looks like it extends slightly from the property line. So this is the subject property line here at 370, and this is the neighboring property at 373. And it does look like there is a slight extension beyond that property line, but it is seemingly matches up with the existing lot line of 373 Harrison.
Right, exactly. Then that's what I see. Okay, I think we've asked our questions. We're ready to open public hearing. And I just want to go over the way we're going to conduct this. We're going to have the appellant come and give us their presentation. And then after that, we open it to the public. Then the appellant gets another chance to respond to what they heard from the public. And then we get to ask questions, as they come up and as that. And then after that, we close the public hearing and then we go back to the staff so that they can address what they've heard and then back to us. So with that, I'm going to open the public hearing. Is appellant here? Welcome.
Advance. Oh, thank you. Okay. Hello. Good evening, commissioners, staff, and to the community of Campbell. My name is Andrea Shaheen, and I've been a proud Campbell resident for almost 24 years. In my time as a Campbell resident, where I raised my two sons, they were born in the house, 370 North Central, I have also been an active member in the community. I've served on the BPAC, the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. I am also a new member of the Campbell Multimodal Transportation Community Advisory Committee. I'm here tonight to ask you for something simple, reasonable, and compassionate. The ability to keep a 3-foot redwood lattice on top of my existing rear fence, a structure that protects my family's privacy, emotional well-being, and safety, surviving one of the most traumatic events of our lives. So on May 24th, 2022, our home was destroyed in a catastrophic fire. The fire originated from an unpermitted shed at 373 Harrison, a structure built directly at my fence line shared with that property. The fire department confirmed the structure was not permitted, it was unmaintained, and the fire began due to faulty electrical wiring in an old refrigerator inside the shed that appeared to be inhabited. Imagine this, I'm working upstairs, having started working from home, working upstairs in my bedroom. My son, my teenage son was sleeping, had just finished his freshman year of high school. My youngest son, who's here tonight, was just at school in 7th grade, had already been at school for the day, leaving a perfectly normal house. And a Catholic Charities van sped into my driveway, and a man jumped out, and I could see this from my window, looking down into the driveway, frantically banging on the door and the windows, shouting, "You got to get out of the house behind you's on fire." We were lucky to escape physically unharmed. Our emotional, psychological, and financial lives were devastated as a result of this fire. We were displaced from our home for more than 2 years. We lived through insurance battles, contractor delays, and mental health consequences that no family should endure. We returned to our rebuilt home in June of 2024, so it's just been about a year. Emotionally, financially exhausted, relieved to be back in our home, only to face another blow just months later. In October of 2024, a brand new ADU started to be erected over our fence line on that back line that had been completely burned out. So we had trees and foliage, all of that. It was, you know, really cute little private patio. All of that burned out and a new fence put up along the whole fence line, which we incurred the cost of. There are still insurance battles going on between the two insurance companies, but fault of where the fire started is not in dispute. So this was not a rebuild. This towering monstrosity is a brand new construction. There was not a permitted legal ADU. It was not an ADU. It was a shed. It was a dilapidated shed that was literally sitting on the fence line. So there was not a 2 feet. It's currently 2 feet, 5, I think 2.5 feet from my fence line. It was literally on the fence line. And we had a lattice erected to block the view of it. From every first floor window, our kitchen, our family room, living room, all we could see is the wall of this new structure looming over us. And it felt like the trauma was happening over and over to see this structure where we saw flames coming out over the window, and I'm grabbing my son and running. I mean, it is a very harrowing experience. It felt like we were living in this constant state of panic. We could just see it from every window. Flashbacks, the feeling that our sanctuary would be taken again. So to shield ourselves emotionally, maintain some privacy, and to not have this constant reminder of this very traumatic experience in our faces wherever we were in our house, we added a structurally sound redwood lattice that is attractive, non-intrusive, and just 50 feet of the rear fence blocking, Commissioner Chair, that was the intention, was just to block that particular view. It did help because we do see that there is another structure from the neighboring property. There is a window that looks down into our property as well, but that was existing. The fence is not visible from any public road. It causes no obstruction to light, to air, to view. It simply restores peace and safety to my family. Larissa, could I ask you to just advance the slides? Is that okay? Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot. I forgot to advance the slide. So I just wanted to show, if you go back one more. Yeah, so this was in the news. The fire was in the news. I don't know if anyone remembers that.
So, if I may interject, Clerk, how long has she been presenting?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. 5 minutes. Okay, so I'll give you 2 more minutes to finish, but you know, normally you only get 5 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak clearly and slowly. I normally speak really fast, so.
I appreciate that.
Okay, so if you could advance it. This is just a vision to show you my son's room completely destroyed. You can keep going. This is the view from 373 Harrison. You can see the complete destruction of the home. You can keep going to give you a flavor for what we experienced. And you can see actually, if you go back one, Larissa, I'm sorry. So the brick, was in the shed. That brick structure, right, like my fence was right there. And then right on the fence line was this brick wood burning stove in that structure that was there. So yeah, you can keep going. Go ahead. Yeah, the one more. And then see, this is how you could see during the construction of just how close it is to my fence line.
just some pictures of that, and you can keep going. Yeah, and then this is how, I mean, basically, the lattice was very specifically measured to cover the view. That was the purpose. So the staff recommendation says my fence is inconsistent with neighborhood character, but no other home in Campbell has experienced what we have. And this is not a precedent, this is an exception, which is exactly the discretionary authority that exists in the code. So one of my neighbors who's here this evening, Michelle Tibbles, my neighbor since the early 2000s, supports this, says it shields the ADU from their view as well. 373 Harrison, where the ADU is located, has not objected to this, has not objected to it. As for concerns of aesthetics, the lattice is well-maintained, natural redwood, and more than attractive.
Okay.
Thank you. And I'll finish up with my final.
So before you move, is there any questions for the appellant at this time?
Yeah, actually, one question about the shed that was originally there.
Yes.
Was that shed there when you bought the house, or was that shed put in at some point later when you were there already?
I don't recall. It looked very dilapidated and old. I mean, we joked, oh, this is a relic from the old, Campbell fruit packing days, because and the roof was flat. It existed below the fence line. So, but it was right on the fence line, like it was built with the fence.
I understand. By the way, I'm assuming, I won't speak for the other commissioners, but I read your entire outline, so we know a lot about what your position is. So
Thank you.
don't be worried that we didn't.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Craig.
Yeah, no, I was going to ask, and you already answered it, though, I guess. Why you didn't even go higher with the fence, but you said that you went specifically measured to cover the view of the
Yes.
ADU. So this was, would you say then, this was the shortest fence that you could do to cover the view of the ADU?
That's exactly.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions? I have one question. So one thing that I don't understand is if fire is your concern, why you would fence? You're just supplying, I mean, if God forbid fire gonna start again,
Yeah.
extra wood is more fuel, and so I don't understand. I understand the view argument that you're making. It's just, I mean, you don't have to answer it. It's just something that's in my mind,
I think to some extent, we all have to live with wood structures, and we have to
Sure.
accept the risks that come along with that. So for us, it is very much about the visual
Okay.
and the trauma that is caused from that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we go to members of the public. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item specifically?
Chair, I have two, Patrick, Todd, and Michelle and Tibbles. So
Okay.
Michelle and Tibbles.
Is Patrick or Michelle here? Okay, wonderful. So Patrick, please. You have 2 minutes to address us, comment on what you.
Okay, so Patrick Todd, I live at 362 Harrison Avenue, across the street from 373 Harrison Avenue. And so I'm not advocating against the family or anything. My only concern is setting a precedent here. I understand the sensitivity of all this, and God forbid that anybody has to go through that. But from a city standpoint, you establish something and it becomes a precedent setting so that the next person, the next person, the next person. So that's really where I'm coming at it from. I'm not saying for me, I really don't see it. I can see it through the parking lot or his driveway, but it doesn't really affect my view or anything. But I'm concerned in the future that sets a precedent based on the conversations we've had tonight. You've had fence exemptions up to 8 feet. So that's really where I'm coming from. from the citywide approach that it becomes a precedent saying that this is established. And now pretty soon we've got 10-foot high fences throughout the city. So understanding that there are going to be more ADUs, more properties close together. And so you're going to be addressing those in the future. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm not saying tear it all down, but I'm just saying there is an issue there from a precedent standpoint.
Unintended consequences.
Yeah.
So I do have a question for you. You said you can see it or you cannot see it,
I can see it because I can see through his driveway and I can see,
but it doesn't bother you.
no, it's,
Okay.
So you live on Harrison on the opposite side?
yeah, I live kind of.
East side?
Yeah, I live kind of directly across 362, so, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Michelle Tibbles.
Welcome.
Hi. Okay, so I am the property owner at 386 North Central. So on the map, Andrea and I are direct neighbors. So if I was facing the street, he'd be the neighbor to the left. And our parcel's the depth.
Do you share a fence with the appellant?
We do.
Okay.
We
thank you.
do. And I am in support of keeping the fence the height it is because from our lot, we can see the ADU. And when that thing started going up, I texted Andrew, I'm like, what is that monstrosity going up? And it was so close. And I think you're gonna see more of these people wanting taller fences because we could not believe that it was so close to the fence. And not only is it close on her side, but it butts up against our neighbor that we share the back, on the back side, and then us. And my husband and I got a ladder, and I'm like, we gotta look at that. We went to the corner of our property and we stood up on the ladder and we looked at it and we're like, how close is that? It literally looks visually, it's 2 feet, right? It looks closer. It looks literally like this. And that butts up on my neighbor's property that's not here, and then Andrea's property. So, and also one of the properties impacted by the fire as well, our parcel, part of it, there was some damage and our shed caught on fire because there's a big redwood tree. But it's actually the fence that she's built, it looks fine aesthetically. It blocks our view too from that monstrosity ADU. So at least I look and I see a fence. So I support it. And also I know even just from our family, the little bit of trauma can't compare to what they went through. But
Okay, thank you for
That is-
presentation.
and that's the only reason that the fence is there now is because the fire happened and then they decided to rebuild and she had to rebuild. This whole thing wouldn't even be happening if the fire hadn't happened.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Are there any questions for her? No, thank you so much. Is there anybody online that comment? Okay, not seeing anything. You can come back and we get another 5 minutes if you need to address whatever you heard, or you don't have to use it all if you don't want to, but
Thank you. Did people have to actually register if they were going to make comments?
no.
Do you want a quick comment?
They don't
Okay.
have to.
Is that okay?
Okay, absolutely, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Please identify yourself.
Yeah, my name is David Pope. I'm Andrea's partner. We've been together since just before the fire, so I've witnessed the entirety of that ordeal. And I did see the emotional stress of being displaced, losing all of your worldly possessions, and ensuring that your kids don't suffer from that. They're very young, impressionable children. And the joy of coming back to your home and to feel that confidence, regain that security, to only have that ADU revive those feelings, that trauma. It just takes those few inches to actually bring relief, to shield them from that ordeal, and to allow them to heal in their privacy and comfort of their home. So that's all I just wanted to say, having witnessed it all.
Okay, so I do have a question, and does anybody else have a question? My question is, you can see it from your second floor, right? The fence is not tall enough to block the second view.
Yeah, no.
Right. It's the patio, it's the first floor that, all right.
Right, from the patio and the kitchen and the dining room, like from that full wall.
On the back, okay. Thank you for that. No other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anybody else, please? Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Victoria Shaheen. I'm Andrea Shaheen's mother,
Okay.
and I'm here to support. I'm sorry, I have to read this. I'm not very good. Thank you. I do not believe anyone in this room can argue how emotionally devastating it is to see the home that you worked so hard for and lived in for decades to burn up, and to watch your personal, sentimental items be destroyed. Their home has since been repaired, and my daughter has moved in and back in. However, the owners behind her have now built a brand new, as you heard, a very large ADU looming above their backyard fence. It's a constant reminder of what destroyed her house. And it is twice as tall as the other one, they said. Every time my daughter or my two grandsons walk out into the backyard or even look out the window on the side of the house, they would see the structure which represents the destruction of their home and security. It was a constant visual reminder of those devastating events. Every time we all see that structure, the emotions and the trauma from that day are reignited. This caused stress, anxiety, fear for my daughter and her family. This is the reason why she added the additional lattice on the top of the fence. It is a way to help block the view that is affecting their emotional and mental well-being. The additional coverage provided by this lattice prevents additional emotional and mental injury to my daughter and my two grandsons. I believe the benefits gained for my daughter and her children, emotional and mental well-being, significantly outweigh any other minor inconvenience caused by the additional lattice coverage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Anybody else? No? Okay, please.
Okay, thank you again for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. Thank you for letting my family speak.
Of course.
I'd like to close by directly addressing the city's findings and a few neighbor comments that were submitted in opposition. So first, let's talk about the impact. So 3 neighbors submitted objections to the fence exception, and really only one of those could actually see the lattice on a day-to-day basis, and none of them share a fence line with it. So let me be clear, the 3-foot on the backside of the property, not facing the street, any public area, sits in my backyard, not visible unless you're intentionally looking for it. And it was constructed very thoughtfully, and it's attractive. There is no visual blight, no light obstruction, no blocked airflow, no impact to public space. The neighbor at 363 Harrison, the only one who could see the lattice, does not share a property line with it. And the complaint focuses more on the fact that I didn't consult with them before installing it, but it's not on their property at all. And ironically, there was a towering addition built on their garage with a 2nd-story window that now looks directly into my living room and kitchen. I was never consulted about that construction project. Yet now the lattice is being objected to. That gives my family a small sense of peace and privacy. So no money was contributed by that neighbor to rebuild the shared fence line. And we were never once asked how we were dealing with all of this going through being displaced. So the other 2 neighbors can't really see the fence in their day-to-day at all. The comments are speculative based on concerns about precedents and vague design values. One even claimed there were no extenuating circumstances to justify the lattice. But I respectfully ask, the commission, how is the total destruction of our home by fire, the displacement for over 2 years, and the triggering trauma caused by this new ADU built just 2 feet from the site of the fire not an extenuating circumstance? I don't see this becoming an issue. I mean, I do think, Commissioner Cray, you mentioned a very valid point that there will be other ADUs built, and I imagine that people will not want them so close to their property lines where they will ask for extensions on their fence. But for now, I don't believe this is going to be a situation that is likely to happen in the near future to anyone else. Unique situation. The fire that destroyed our home was caused by an unpermitted, illegal shed built directly on the fence line, confirmed in the official fire report. A large ADU, only 2 feet setback from the fence, was approved by the city, I believe incorrectly, and under the justification that it was a reconstruction. There was absolutely not an ADU in place. In fact, there was no bathroom, there was nothing. It was a shed with a fire pit and some electrical wires that were faultily connected to a refrigerator. I believe this was a mistake, and that while we're not here to debate that tonight, it makes one thing clear, that if the city can approve a massive new structure 2 feet from the line of a trauma-causing fire, it can surely allow my family the ability to retain this 3 foot of modest, private, visually non-intrusive lattice for our emotional well-being, as you have the power to do. So I ask you, you have the discretion to grant this exception when it doesn't do harm to public health, safety, or welfare. And in this case, there is no harm. So I respectfully ask the commission to uphold my full exception request and to leave it because it is justified, necessary, and well within the bounds of what a compassionate and thoughtful city that I absolutely love and will stay here for the rest of my life will allow. So thank you for your time and your service and your consideration. And I look forward to continuing in my civic activities.
Wonderful, thank you. Let me see if there's any questions. Let's start from this side. Commissioner Cray?
Yeah, let me just, because we're talking about all these details and these things are going to be coming up, and I don't know if it's pertinent to your issue, but 2 questions for you are, if the city said the fence can only be 8 feet, but they made the ADU get torn down and moved back 2 more feet, 4 feet instead of 2 feet, would that make any difference at all?
Well, so I originally started with the whole thing when I started seeing this happen. I didn't just build the lattice. I went through the channels. I mean, I talked to Mr. Eastwood. I talked to many people in the city, and actually talked to the state of California because I was referred to the state ADU laws. Talked to several people in the state, talked to attorneys. I mean, I had attorneys willing to fight the battle. I did not want to go down that road. I did not want legal battles. I did not want, the structure was already built. I mean, when you look at cost benefit analysis for the community and for people, I just wanted to block the site. And to your question, yeah, I would have liked it to be adhering to a more thoughtful approval process where they looked at, okay, yeah, there was a fire here a couple years ago or a year ago. I don't know when the process to get the permit started, but a more thoughtful process to have actually looked at what happened on this property before just granting a reconstruction and assuming that it was at 2.5, it was not 2.5 feet from the fence.
But I'm putting in on the spot though. The question is if it was 4 feet from your fence.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
What do you think?
It would have
Been an issue,
caused
yeah.
a big issue.
And if you had, if the city had notified you ahead of time that your neighbor was going to build this ADU, if they had notified you,
That's what I
6
asked.
months ahead of time, would that have helped in any way, or just as a courtesy, or what?
I would have been here. I would have been here
We've been fighting earlier, maybe.
every day before it was built. I would have been here. I would have taken it as far as I possibly could.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Bookbinder, did you have a question for appellant?
I don't have any questions.
No, okay, go ahead, Commissioner Caesar.
Okay. Can I call you Andrea?
Yes.
So, a hard question. I'm assuming you knew that you're supposed to get a permit for this fence. You said you even talked to the planning department, but you didn't submit a request for a permit. So you went ahead and built this thing without approval. Okay, so that bothers me. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you probably understand. I mean, you are a volunteer on a commission, board. I would assume you. I mean, not everybody knows they got to go to the city to get a fence permit, but I'm guessing that you probably, since you mentioned that you talked to the city, went ahead and built it anyway. So I have that question. I also have a question whether or not you considered other solutions, like a separate trellis that you could have stuff grow on it that would block it.
Yeah, no, I understand that question. I think in the kind of trauma of the moment that we were experiencing, I didn't explore or research what needed to be done. And I was very distressed because trying to figure out, you know, do we take legal action? Do we do these other things? And I thought, no. So I looked at a structure that was on my property that would essentially be a solid, like a completely solid wall, but it would be on my property and it would have been unsightly. And I wanted something that looked more aesthetic. I felt like the lattice looked more in line with the community and like the redwood tree, the tree right there. I mean, it looks nice. I mean, it doesn't.
Well, it's a continuation of the fence. I mean, I get that. You know, it's an extension of the fence that you already had.
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Majewski, any questions? No? Okay, Vice Chair? No. I have a question. Commissioner Caesar alluded to it, and how about with vegetation? You know, would you be able to grow vegetation to fill the extra 1 foot 9 inches that you are above what the city feels comfortable with? Is that a possibility? Like vines or something that would slowly fill up, you know?
We had, for the decades that I've lived there, there was no vegetation and took 10 years to grow. I mean, we had a beautiful wall of green. And the time that it takes, I mean, we were feeling the effects of the stress, the anxiety,
Okay.
Yeah.
One more question. Now you said the neighbor in the back is okay with this, you know, do you have documentation to show that they don't mind the fence being that high?
I don't have any affirmative statements from them, but I haven't had any objections either.
I see. So
yeah.
The fact that they haven't objected, you take that as, you know, they don't have issue with it.
They had their contractors working on the ADU while we were erecting the lattice. So they had a full awareness of everything going on.
And I figure you must have paid a very good money because those posts having to be that tall, they probably have to go into the ground and an extra 4 or 5 feet.
We wanted them to be structurally sound so as not cause any safety issues.
Makes sense. Okay, I don't have any other questions. Thank you again.
Thank you.
So I'm going to close the public hearing. And staff, if you like to comment on anything you heard.
Just a couple of items to address that were brought up during the public hearing portion. The first was the concern over the lack of permits for the rear shed on the neighboring property. Staff did document that there were permits dating back to at least 2001 and likely earlier from the building division for the shed at the property at 373 Harrison. And then just another point of reference, the state governing body that the appellant was referred to was HC, and that's it for applications.
So you had documentation that the shed was legal, but not the wiring that they had done.
It's unclear what the wiring was at the time, but staff had a 2001 permit for electrical work. So there was a permit for electrical work to have wiring to the accessory structure, which was once referred to as a shed, and then also in the permits referred to as a rec room, and was also depicted on subsequent plans submitted by the property owner.
I see. But on the fire report, my understanding is they think the fire started from the faulty refrigerator or from the wiring to the refrigerator?
Staff did not review the fire report as it wasn't relevant to the fence exceptions.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff? Hearing none, commissioners, let's have our discussions. Commissioner Bookbinder, do you want to get us started?
My best.
Okay.
So this is a very intense story. First, I just want to say that is awful. I can't imagine having to run with my family out of the house as fire suddenly shows up. And it's got to be really uncomfortable to look out the window and see a building where the building that caused your house to burn down was. And I agree, it seems, I can see why it would seem unfair, unusual, odd that someone can build I believe that at least an 18-foot ADU and you can't put up a 10-foot fence, which, like, you can see why the rules were put there in the first place, but that would definitely feel wrong if you're in a situation where somebody is putting up an 18-foot ADU and you can't put up a 10-foot fence. At the same time, I note that, like, as far as I can tell, this ADU is permitted and is built to code and is hopefully more likely to burn down than any other structure. And I lean towards, I want to hear what everybody else has to say, but I lean towards understanding staff is saying, like, none of these are objective reasons to change the fence rules, which are there for a particular reason in a particular way. But I do want to hear what everyone else has to say. That's where I'm at.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, well, geez, what a tough issue. I just feel so sorry for the family. You can see that. So we've been talking about housing for forever up here. In all cities, everywhere in the state and in the country and actually in the world. And the ADUs are actually one of the things that are working. We're actually getting some quote unquote affordable units with ADUs. So even as we speak, even yesterday, there were new laws, very recently new laws making it easier to build ADUs. So we get all these ADUs, and then the issue comes as the one speaker said, and as Adam just mentioned here, and as the appellant said, so there's going to be this issue is going to come up a lot. It's just a natural issue, and it's a real emotional issue, and it's going to, this isn't the first time we're going to hear this, unless people say, well, you can't appeal. There's no sense in doing it. So apparently I was going to ask how tall the ADUs can be. I guess Adam just told us 18 feet, so it actually could have been even taller.
I could be wrong about that.
But yeah, so why can't you build a higher fence? And so I guess the issue here, and the other one speaker mentioned, you're setting a citywide precedent. I mean, this is a great story, and it is certainly unusual. But it opens up the door. What should the fence height be, and what kind of issues might come up once you approve one. So that's kind of where I'm leaning. I hate to set the precedent, even when, in most of these fences, there are very few people that will see the fence. It's just a very few number of lots. And I guess that, it does sound like this ADU is permitted and legal and this is really just the tip of the iceberg of an issue that we're going to see throughout the whole state, country, with these ADUs being built right next to other properties. And, you know, I don't know how it shakes out. You know, eventually I think it's good, you know, appeal, get your point of views out there. You said some great points of view. I mean, you know, compassion and reasonableness, and there's all kinds of things that we could talk about. But, you know, it just comes down to the setting the precedent. I think, you know, it's legal. I don't know how we're going to deal with this. Maybe at some point, you know, we say, you know, taller fences, especially if the top part's lattice or open. Maybe that's fine. I don't know if we want to get into that big issue right here. If we want to ask staff to start researching this thing, because we know it's going to come up again. But in terms of where we're at right now, you know, I just think it sets a precedent that you know, I just hate to do that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I normally go from one end to the other end, and you know, I want to do something a little different. I want to go next, and then
Mr. Chairman,
thank you.
may.
And then I will, you know, let others go, because everything my colleague said, I agree with. It makes perfect sense. Except that the precedent issue was what resonated with me at the time, but not now. And let me explain why. When the back property owner hasn't said anything, they are as much affected as our appellant is. When they don't say anything, and when this really helps one of our residents, and I think everything she has done has been reasonable and logical, and gone through the process, exhausted all the administrative issues that she has to go through. I think she's acted in perfect citizenry that we would expect people to behave, you know, and she's paid for the whole thing herself, hasn't asked for, you know, half, even though it's a shared fence. Because of that, you know, it's 50-50, but I land on the side that if one place deserved the exception, it's this one, because she's made it look beautiful, you know, and okay, you can see it from the street, but, you know, I don't know. I don't get offended if I see a taller fence, you know, especially if it's built beautiful. So, so that's my point of view, you know, and I just wanted to go there. And now I want to open it to the other three commissioners that haven't spoken. Who would like to go next?
I'll go.
You go next, okay?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm so sorry that happened to you. I wasn't really looking at you because I'm trying to be like unemotional when I'm hearing your story and making this decision, but I could hear in your voice how much this affected you. That being said, I am kind of in agreement with that end of the commissioners. I am worried about the precedent. I don't want to live in a walled city, and if we are having more and more ADUs built, they can come in and say, well, I have an emotional reason also why I don't want to look at a building. So where do we draw the line? Who do we say yes to? Who do we say no to? I think this is an exceptional circumstance, but we have to be kind of objective and fair. And I just find making an emotional decision like that it creates a dangerous precedent. So that's kind of where I land. I think a barrier could be made with landscaping, which is an additional expense, but that's kind of where my head's at.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I don't want to discount the trauma that you've gone through. I mean, it's probably one of the most traumatic experiences people can have, short of like losing family members, you know, losing all or part of your home, a fire. and then having to rebuild. We see it all the time on the news, right? So there is a couple things I wanted to, in terms of the thing that you submitted. You know, first of all, I was uncomfortable with the fact that you talked about misstatements by the planning commission, by the planning department. These aren't all misstatements. It's a kind of a mischaracterization. This is their position based on what they have interpreted the code to be, and you know what's their determination. You know, one of my concerns is, and Commissioner Majeski touched on it. It's like the standard is 6 feet. Well, why is the standard 6 feet in the first place? We have two-story homes in many places that, you know, 6 feet doesn't cover, right? We have people who have windows that look out on other people's windows already. There is no total privacy in a neighborhood, and it's a lovely neighborhood. I live nearby. And so, outside the 500 feet. But that's the nature of a neighborhood like this, is that even though we have, I mean, I grew up in a place where we didn't have fences, and we ran through people's yards. But here we have an option for fences, but they're only 6 feet fences, which means that you, even on the first floor, you see your neighbor. If you look out the side window, in a lot of places, that's only sometimes 8 or 10 feet away because of the setbacks on the sides. You happen to live in a little development of 4 homes, I believe it's 4 homes, where it's a smaller parcel, and your home is actually built with very little setback in the first place. So you only got a few feet of setback, where most homes on standard parcels down the street have a big backyard where there's 10 or 15 or 20 foot setback on the backyard. So you kind of set yourself up a little bit for having the house so close to the back fence in the first place. It's a lovely house, but and it's a lovely little group of homes. So that in itself, you know, begs the question. It's like, okay, I'm gonna live in a house where there's only a 5 foot setback to my neighbor on the back, and that in general, the whole idea of 6 foot fences, and not bigger than 6 foot fences, is that it's about having neighbors, and that we're not walling each other off. I think it would be a terrible thing if everybody started putting up 10 and 12 foot fences. So to me, it does set a potentially bad precedent, especially since there isn't any. I mean, there's very few 8 foot fences. I actually question the 8 foot, but most everybody has 6 foot fences. There's a few where people add another foot of lattice in a wide variety of neighborhoods in the city. And I've been here 40 years. I've lived in 3 different areas of the city, including downtown, West Campbell, and San Tomas. So I've seen, and since being on the commission, I've seen a lot of houses in a lot of neighborhoods. From that point of view, I'm kind of agreeing with the other commissioners. The other thing was that you talked a little bit, and this is just me, you talked about the general welfare. You used the general welfare. I think you've misdefined what general welfare is in the general plan. And that originates from the preamble of the U.S. Constitution. General welfare is about the community-wide or society-wide. It's not about individual rights and individual welfare. So general welfare is about the greater good, okay? That's really what general welfare is about, rather than your particular circumstances. We're not psychologists here. We're supposed to objectively determine, based on city code, state laws, and the rules that we have here. And so it's very hard for us to think in terms of, despite your terrible trauma, that we could, you know, use that as an emotional decision. I get it. You know, I get that that's a concern to you. You do have a 2-story house, and I assume that upstairs you're overlooking, you can see you can see the ADU in the backyard and it's, you know, there's not total privacy in other parts of the house. And so, you know, we can't have total private, if you want total privacy, you know, people go and get a couple acres in the Santa Cruz Mountains and they get total privacy, you know. They drive through their gate and then it's all woods. Here in neighborhoods, you never get total privacy. You know, there's always going to be some public, you know, non-private situations, even if you're in your home. So the privacy factor, it's kind of it's a subjective, relative kind of thing. So I was actually thinking we were like going beyond by offering 8 feet, but I would be certainly amenable to the 8-foot requirement. I understand that is going to cause you concern, but you know, my experience with the commission, now being on the commission for 5 years, is that we try very hard to do the right thing from a community-wide point of view, and so I'm in concert with many of our commissioners on that respect.
Thank you for that, Vice Chair.
Again, echoing, very sorry this happened to you and your family. I am aligned on the precedent angle. I think the city of Campbell should reconsider our fence rules in light of setback updates. We're below other cities. San Jose is 7. I think 7 is reasonable. I do think we're oversubscribed hopelessly for this year, but I hope we do that in the next year or two and talk more about what the fence rules are. That being said, I don't see a world where we get to 10, and I'm aligned with the precedent argument that we're making here.
Okay. So we've heard from the commissioners, you know, and that's what we're here for. So with that, unless there's any other discussion, I'm looking for a motion.
I guess I'll make a motion that Planning Commission of the City of Campbell denying the appeal and upholding the Community Development Director's conditional approval of a fence exception permit, PLN 2025-14, to allow for an 8-foot tall wood fence where a 6-foot tall fence would otherwise be allowed along a property along approximately 52-foot portion of a rear property line on property located at 370 North Central Avenue.
Okay.
I'll second it.
We have a motion, we have a second. Let's do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Scissor?
Aye.
Commissioner Majewski?
Aye.
Commissioner Gray?
Aye.
Commissioner Buckbinder?
Aye.
Vice Chair Fields?
Aye.
Chair Kamkar?
No. Okay, so with that, the motion passes 5-1 with one commissioner not present. I believe they get a 10-day appeal as well.
There are appeal rights, appeal the decision to the city council.
Okay, so so you can appeal this decision to city council within the next 10 calendar days. Otherwise, it would be fine. Thank you. All right, so let's go to the next. The next one is item 4. That's the, sorry, I'm having trouble finding it on agenda. Okay, there we go. Sorry, having trouble. Okay, now I have it. 2, 3, 4. Oh, I'm not all the way up. Trying to find it.
It's like, wait, it's paid 103 if they paid this.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah. This is what I want to do.
Oh,
Okay. I'm there now. 600 East Hamilton Avenue. This is a conditional use permit. Public hearing to consider the application of Patrick Ruffles to allow a 26,646 square foot expansion of an existing fitness center, studio, or a pickleball facility, DBA, The Hub, within an existing commercial building, inclusive of 9 new pickleball courts, resulting in 81,229 square feet in total area and 29 courts on property located at 600 East Hamilton Avenue. The application under consideration is a conditional use permit, file number PLN 2024-157. Staff?
Thank you so much, Chair. As mentioned, the item number 4 is for a conditional use permit for a new fitness facility studio use located at 600 East Hamilton. The project site is located on the southeast corner of Hamilton Avenue and Salmar Avenue, abutting Highway 17 on the east. Is this triangular lot you see on the screen, with proximity to the Hamilton Avenue light rail station, which also runs adjacent on the southerly line. The zoning for the property is transit-oriented mixed use, similar to the general plan as well, which would allow for 57 to 75 units per acre. The site is a little over 7 acres, and it is within the proposed Hamilton Avenue precise plan boundary, which is a forthcoming area plan, which the city is currently working on. For some context, the site was originally developed as retail and warehouse for a furniture store. Subsequently, Fry's was a major tenant that occupied the space in 1992. As the Fry's was operating in the space, portions of the rear warehouse, the southerly portion, was repurposed for various uses, some recreational, such as Bintang Badminton, other were additional warehouses. Bintang Badminton still remains. In 2020, Fry's Electronics officially closed, and the remaining warehouse space that was converted into another health and fitness use, The Hub, in 2023. And so the entire warehouse is made up of The Hub and the Bintang Badminton use, with the retail portion occupied by seasonal uses, most recently Spear Halloween. Some other zoning context, in 2023, after the hub was approved, the site was later then designated that year as a housing opportunity site. The zoning was changed from PD to transit-oriented mixed use, which renders the existing pickleball facility use as legal, but non-conforming to the changes. The new designation updates the land use from commercial to mixed use, allowing for 57 to 75 units per acre. And these changes are meant to support or facilitate high density redevelopment, specifically transit accessible residential mixed use development, considering its proximity to light rail, which is consistent with the city's housing and RENA goals. And so the proposed project that the applicant has put forward is an expansion of the existing space, which we can see here in blue. This was previously approved under an admin PD permit in 2023, with an increase of about half of the retail space seen here in red, about 26,000 square feet, and to increase the total number of, to add 9 additional pickleball courts, increasing that to 30, so adding about a third additional courts. Something to be carried through from the previous PD permit, they will continue to allow for up to 4 tournaments per year. However, this conditional use permit will allow the flexibility of the site to apply for additional events via temporary use permits that will subsequently be analyzed for consistency. As part of their construction scope, it's very minor. The applicant is not proposing any exterior building changes or site changes, and the interior changes are limited just to accommodate the pickleball facility use. And then here's a larger image of the site proposal. We see here in blue is the existing. This space here is made up entirely of the Bintang Badminton use. This is the retail portion of the building, which is currently vacant, although it's been operated seasonally by various users, and the proposed expansion will be limited to what we see here in red. The applicant has proposed to have a conditional use permit that will subsume the admin PD permit and allow for this use in perpetuity. Staff does recommend that the applicant consider a term limited 5-year conditional use permit. This will support the use permit. This will support an interim use while preserving the site for long-term housing goals. And this will ensure with the minimal upgrades and site changes that the site still remains viable for any future housing or mixed-use development. So the applicant won't be redefining the site for a commercial use. It's important to note, as described earlier, that this is a housing opportunity site. It was designated in the 2023 housing element, which is estimated to produce about 416 units, which is about 14% of our RHNA allocation. As you can see here from the slide, we are somewhat behind in our RHNA goals. And so this site was meant to provide a quite substantial number of units to help meet this goal by 2031. Furthermore, the TOMU rezoning does reflect the city's goals to support higher density housing at this location. It's our highest density general plan land use designation for housing, and also to capitalize on the city's existing infrastructure, such as the location to transit, which is the Hamilton Avenue station. And so the concerns from staff and reason for the 5-year term limitation is that long-term use could tie up the site and further undermine our RHNA capacity and our housing production targets. However, that said, the city does recognize that there is significant market feasibility at the moment. So the city underwent some economic development. The city looked at some feasibility studies for housing development within the city, and it was determined that there are significant financial challenges to building higher density housing, especially condominiums and for rental units. The primary barriers seem to be construction costs and interest rates that have, and other labor shortages that have really limited some of the feasibility of this type of development. And there's a lot of financing. There's a lot of issues securing financing as well for any affordable housing projects, which is the type of projects the city would want to see at this location. Furthermore, the city does recognize that there are potential site-specific constraints for this location. So while the site is zone TOMU, which could allow residential or commercial land use, a lot of commercial tenants may not want to consider this building for moving in, as it was built quite some time ago and may no longer support what today's commercial tenants may need in the space. And also, as noted in our economic development plan, oftentimes we see some of these extended vacancies, as we've seen since 2020. It could be an indication that the building itself needs significant upgrades in order to become viable for commercial use. So that being said, the city is in support of this application. It will facilitate interim activation without forestalling future redevelopments. Because of the low impact to the site, it will still maintain viability for future developments. We'll respond to current market conditions and allowing for future redevelopment of the site without too much impact. And it does support a land use strategy that considers both the future and the current needs for the site. And most importantly, the city is supportive of this land use with the option for the applicant to reapply in the future. If after the 5-year term limitation elapses and the market conditions have not changed, city staff would be supportive of the applicant coming back to the Planning Commission to seek a reapplication. So as seen here by the Planning Commission, the option 1 would be staff's recommendation to adopt a resolution, which would be approving a condition of approval to allow for a term limited 5-year conditional use permit for the applicant. However, based on the applicant's provided materials in their project description, they would seek a conditional use permit in perpetuity. And so if that were the option, the Planning Commission, I'll just mention verbally that the Planning Commission could consider continuing the item to reassess what those impacts would be if the applicant were seeking a long-term application for this project in terms of what types of site improvements would be required, traffic analysis, and other impacts to the site would be required if the city wanted to move forward with a long-term conditional use for the site. This concludes staff's presentation. I can now take questions at this time. The applicant is also here in the audience, and they have also prepared a PowerPoint presentation that they would like to present as well.
So I'm going to start with questions, but can you go over your option 2 again?
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Since you went back, I didn't quite understand what that option was.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I might have pulled the wrong slide, but option 2, it wasn't written on the slide, but the option 2 would be to continue the hearing, to reassess the application considering a conditional use permit in perpetuity and what those impacts would be to traffic, public works, and our other regulatory bodies who would be reviewing the application during our DRC review.
Got it. Okay. Commissioner Bookbinder.
To be clear, the current permit they have for the pickleball courts, is that time limited or is that in perpetuity?
So that is in perpetuity. The administrative plan development permit that was approved in 2023 has no term limitation on it.
And so what staff is trying to do is to get them to put a term limit on all of their pickleball courts in exchange for getting 9 more pickleball courts.
That's correct. This is a voluntary action taken by the applicant to expand a legal non-conforming permit. And so as such, the staff will have to review the application in its entirety to determine whether or not it fits with the general plan and housing element and other governing documents the city has adopted since the original approval.
And in terms of needing like more paperwork, more study, if it's going to be in perpetuity as opposed to 5 years, that's because traffic impacts won't show up for 5 years. It's like, that seems like 5 years seems like long enough for it to make a difference. It just seems like, what's the justification for there being more streamlining on a time limited permit than on one that's in perpetuity, especially if time limited is 5 years?
Well, the application was reviewed by the different regulatory bodies with the initial understanding that this would be a term limited application for 5 years. And rather than invest some upgrades into the site, such as putting additional stop signs, which would trigger additional site improvements, based on the limited term of the use permit, city staff determined that this would not be necessary in order to move forward with this application, since it was not a permit, it's not a permanent land use.
Okay, thank you.
We do have someone from the Public Works Department online who can also speak to those questions about what types of site improvements we would be looking at.
Thank you.
Commissioner Craig?
Yeah, just 2 questions, Lucer. I'm trying to, so you're recommending the 5-year CUP approval. But was there, I thought this was in the staff report, was there any consideration of requiring year-by-year approval?
Staff didn't consider that, considering the administrative burden that would place both on the applicant and on the staff. 5 years is also consistent with the term limit that we place on health and fitness facilities and studio uses in our light industrial and our research and development zoning districts where we want to preserve land for a specific type of use. So in modeling with that time frame and also with the frame of the housing element, staff landed on 5 years for the term.
And so I guess staff doesn't think there's any chance of any kind of a major mixed use development within 5 years.
On the feasibility analysis conducted in 2024, we're optimistic but not certain. We also understand that these types of applications do take long to entitle, to conceive of, and then to put into action. So that amount of time might be consistent with the amount of time that we've allowed for this approval.
Okay, and just the other real quick question. I remember when the pickleball went in, I remember hearing about it, but it never came before the planning commission, did it, the original?
The original approval was an administrative level decision.
Because what's the difference now versus then?
At the time, the land use, it was a PD permit, which allowed for certain land use changes, which did not require significant upgrades to the site. They could be processed administratively. Since we've done away with our PD permits, our PD zoning and also our PD permits, that option is no longer available to the applicant.
So that comes before, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Zizek?
So, thank you. So first on the limited term, you mentioned a couple examples of where we limit the term, but you know, in terms of, I don't know what's a comparable site, but what how common is it to give indefinite term for things like, you know, CVS or Ace Hardware or who's getting unlimited term normally? Is there a kind of a standard in terms of, you know, the reason I ask is that whether it's 5 years or unlimited, the landlord can give, if they want to close it down and knock it down and put up new housing, they can give them 4 months notice, right? So it doesn't really matter if they have this term, okay? Because the landlord can say, I changed my mind, and tell me if I'm wrong, that we're going to go ahead in 2 years and we're going to give you 4 months notice and they have to disappear. Is that correct?
That is correct, and the applicant did provide that they do have this termination clause in the lease.
Yes.
However, it is the city's duty and the planning commission's duty to review the application in the context of its housing element, its general plan. And so approving a new conditional use permit like this in perpetuity would have, for a long-term use, would have some major conflicts with our general plan and land use, our proposed Hamilton Avenue precise plan, and the fact that the location is also a gateway identified in the general plan, which is meant to bring awareness and to reflect the character and design of the city. And so while the applicant always has the opportunity to exist at the will of the free market, it is still the city's duty to review these land use applications and ensure that they're consistent with the policies in place that we do have.
Yeah. The applicant's initial proposal was to do, take the whole thing, right? This is going to take like the back half of the upstairs, if I read the plans right. You know, it's going to be upstairs for the additional 9 courts. By the way, is there a back entrance from there? How do they get to the upstairs? They're not going up through the front, are they?
So no, the entrance would be through the existing.
Okay. So there's some stairway or something. Okay. So it only leaves like the other half of the upstairs is what's empty. And they proposed initially, they wanted to take the whole thing. They wanted to put in more courts. They wanted to put in some food and beverage and who knows what else. So, you folks said that there will be need to be more work to be done, and I'd like to hear about that. What the additional work that would have been, you know, because, you know, up until Fry's closed, there was this big retail place that seemed to be fine. You know, it was busy and it worked fine the way it was. So I'm curious as to what the additional requirements would be if they wanted to take the entire space. And you talked about it. There's somebody online that we can hear that from.
Well, we do have Rogers Stores online, but I could go over the high level so as part of the first application that the applicant submitted, it did have reference to an 8-year term limitation, but subsuming of the entire retail space. And based off of that incompleteness letter, the traffic division was asking for additional stop signs. The Public Works Department was asking for frontage improvements along 2 different driveways to create ADA accessible passive travel along the sidewalks. The building division was inconclusive, but we were looking at that front entrance to ensure that it was meeting all building code requirements. It's that ramp that goes up to it. We were going to have to reassess that. So asking for additional code analysis there. And then also the fire department was going to look at the alarm system with the occupancy as it went in. And so after the applicant scaled that back, those comments went away.
Okay. I guess I'll leave other questions for the applicant on that.
And
let's see if I have anything else. So the only other question I have is, we all, most of us went through the housing element, and the Fry's thing was there. And it got included because it was now empty and looked like a good place. And so we went through the whole thing of turning it into a high-density mixed use. But they never submitted an application. It's always speculative. And, from my perspective, is like, are they going to do it? What's going to, are they going to go ahead with this kind of thing? And nothing happened. So do we have any reason to believe that the landlord has still considerable interest in putting in mixed use residential?
In some preliminary discussions with the landlord, he has expressed interest. However, he's also here in the audience tonight and can answer questions to that effect.
Okay. I think that's all I have for now.
Thank you, Commissioner Cesar. Commissioner Majewski?
My questions were answered.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Vice Chair?
I think you answered it when you said the position about compliance with the general plan, because I mostly had about the 5-year term, so I'm good.
Okay. Thank you. I would like to hear from Roger Stores as to public, what public improvements would the Public Works Department would ask for?
Good evening, Commissioner Chairman Kamkar. This is Roger Stores with Public Works. Can you hear me?
Yes, Roger. Very good.
Yes. So really from a frontage improvement perspective, our focus is primarily ADA compliance, and it's primarily the 2 driveways off of Salmar. When the project was much larger in scope, for a longer duration, we felt we had the nexus to require that ADA compliance. I mean, we also need to remember that the east side of Salmar is the pedestrian connection between Hamilton and our downtown, because the west side of Salmar, the sidewalk ends at the public storage, and it's kind of intermittent throughout there. So if anybody, from an ADA perspective is trying to get to, our downtown area from Hamilton, that would be the side of the street that they would use. And so, like I said, with a larger scope, with a longer duration, we felt we had the nexus. I mean, because we recognize, that ultimately this site should be redeveloped, and that those improvements would, we hate building things that are just going to be ripped out later. But there's only so long that you can say that something is temporary. If it's going to become an indefinite approval, and these improvements, this configuration could be there for another 15 or 20 years, because that's what we say when we say indefinite, then we want that frontage to be ADA compliant. We want people who are using wheelchairs along that frontage to be able to get through those driveways in a safe and efficient manner. So the other issue that Matthew Jew, our city traffic engineer, raised is the center driveway coming kind of out of the not underground, but the first floor parking area. Currently doesn't have a stop sign. And unfortunately now or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, with the PROWAG requirements, the minute you add a stop sign and make that a stop controlled intersection, there's certain ADA, truncated dome requirements and other ADA requirements that would trigger reconstruction of that driveway as well. So there's it's all, again, we're not asking for, gold-plated sidewalks or anything. We're just asking for basic ADA compliance. And especially if it goes longer than a short-term temporary approval. Hopefully I've answered your question.
Got it, thank you. We have one more question for you.
When it says can reapply to who?
To the Planning Commission, if the process is still the same.
Okay, so if 5 years from now, so in a hypothetical, 5 years from now, economic conditions largely the same, we could just grant another 5-year extension.
That's correct. And we would review it as a 5-year term limited CUP in the same way Roger was describing, where it potentially is a where it will continue to be reviewed as a term limited use. And we will take that into account when reviewing the application as part of the regulatory bodies.
Got it.
Okay, so following up on this question, I think if I'm not mistaken, the issue is this 5 years applicant wants apply to the 9 new courts. Staff wants it to apply to all the courts, correct?
So the initial application materials that the applicant submitted speaks to a term limited application or term limit for the conditional use permit, which the applicant is applying for, which will supersede the administrative plan development permit and entitle the entire site. In the applicant's more recent proposal, they would like to to appeal to the Planning Commission to seek a CUP in perpetuity for the entire site.
Okay. Yeah, one more question. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, come on.
Last one.
No. Ask as many as I want. So if we approve the 5-year, it applies to the entire site
That is
from this
correct.
point on?
Yes, that is correct. As the city no longer reviews plan development permits, we are not able to make amendments to those as part of our eradication of the plan development zoning district. Therefore, any new entitlements on the site would supersede any previous legacy permits as described in our zoning code that was adopted in 2023 as the comprehensive zoning code update.
So when they first came in, what was the term limit?
The initial application requested 8 years, the second submittal requested 5, and then the third sought a application in perpetuity.
But what did they get for the existing?
Oh, the existing plan development permit had no term limit on it.
Oh,
Perpetuity.
okay. So we're kind of going backwards a little bit in terms of what's existing there. Now they're constrained to 5 years.
It could be seen that way, but it's important to note that the general plan update, zoning code, and housing element had not been adopted at the time this applicant did receive the initial initial permit.
Okay. And then the other point I wanted was with Roger. He talked about, I don't know how much a big deal it is in terms of putting in the stop sign and all the stuff that goes around the stop sign, but the other ADA requirements for like the entrance. How big, what was the Roger, what's the estimate that you had in terms of what was going to need to be done? Were they going to need to knock down that whole entrance and put something new up? Or was there just going to be modifications?
Yeah, no, both driveways would need to be completely reconstructed. So it's a significant expense. And that's why when the scope was reduced and the time limit was reduced, we felt more comfortable eliminating that requirement. But it is a significant expense.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, thank you, commissioners. With that, I'm going to open the public hearing.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to redirect Planning Commission to the option 2, which I'm not sure if that was covered on the previous slide, but if option 1, this Planning Commission does not want to approve the resolution, they have the option to continue the hearing to allow additional time for the regulatory agencies, such as the Building Division, Public Works we've heard from, to evaluate the implications of a non-term limited CUP. So that being said.
Okay. And how long would that take?
Well, if we could expedite it, and it depends on the schedule of the Planning Commission, it may be about 6 weeks.
Oh, okay.
If not sooner.
Okay, we will ask. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to open the public hearing. And we're going to ask the applicant to come and address us first. And so you have 5 minutes. And you get to address us after we hear from the public again. So go ahead.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. Thank you very much for allowing me to come speak tonight. My name is Brett Fierstein. I represent the property owner of the subject property. First, I'd like to start off by thanking Director Eastwood, Larissa, staff, and everyone. Very much appreciate always working with us throughout the years. With me today, I have the Hub's manager, Mike Fox. I have our architect, Kurt Anderson, as well as Kelly Schneider, our land use advisor. Hopefully, I'm sure all of you have heard of the Hub, but hopefully you've had a chance to come check it out. If not, please do. It really is quite a venue. We're very proud of it, and obviously based on how many people are members, we're very excited. And I heard that, that is true. This is a voluntary action. We decided to do this, but not really planned on it because it is so popular. It's almost an involuntary request just because the amount of members. And I was there today playing pickleball, and it was a non-busy day. You can absolutely see how many people are lined up. If usually when you win, you get to stay, but it's so busy, even if you win, you're off the court. So it is something that we're very proud of and very excited. Thank you, Larissa, very much for doing the slides. So the existing condition today, we have Badminton, which takes up about 36,000 feet. And we have the Hub Pickleball taking up about 55,000 feet. There's also a temporary parking for Stanford Medical Center that we wanted to make sure to have activity at that facility. We unfortunately remember when it was more vacant and it was a mess. It was unsightly for us, for the community, and just led to a lot of problems. So we're very excited to be increasing the activity at that center, or in that area, because it really has made a difference. Next, please. So a little bit about Bintang Badminton. They started in 2007 and 24,000 feet. And they were so popular that in 2022, we expanded them by 50%, added more courts. And even today, when I was just there, they want to add more courts. It's not possible. We're not going to have that issue, so don't worry. But it just speaks to the area, to the need, to the desire of the community. So next, please.
A quick question. The operator of the badminton is a different operator than the pickleball.
That is correct. Completely separate. They're not connected in any way, ownership, physically, any which way.
Thank you.
The Hub that had a relationship with Mr. Rolfus from a club in Newport Beach in San Diego. We were very excited for this opportunity to bring him up here. He saw this vision. I wasn't exactly sure, as much indoor pickleball, and obviously created something just magical. So that what's very important for us, and I know that we've already said it, is that this permit does not have an expiration, that we made that investment and knowing that it can continue on for the long term. I hope everyone's, at least that I know, there's not been parking, traffic, neighbors, no problems. I mean, haven't heard of a single thing, and, which is, I think, pretty rare in today's age.
Yeah.
Next, please. Just a quick reminder of what's existing today. Next, please. So we had a little history with the requested expansion. I thought 20 courts would be plenty, and Pat originally told me it's probably not going to be enough. And unfortunately, I'll admit he was right. I was wrong. And so, there's so many events that they're turning down, people that are complaining about not having court time. When you go to play, if you have an hour, you want to play. You don't want to be watching others. As fun as it is to watch others, you want to play. And so we did come in with a request for 20 courts. I'll tell you, just from my experience, again, that's why I thank Director Eastwood and Larissa. They've been very communicative. They've been trying to see what we can do, telling us what their goals are, and how can we work together to figure this out. So we understood 20 courts is going to cause some problems. And so we talked about reducing it down the number of courts. We reduced it down to 9. We also talked about having time limits. That, again, trying to work together to a common goal. And so, because originally we didn't have any time limits on the existing space, we shouldn't have any on the new space. But we understood that housing is a priority here, and it's important to us, to honor our needs as well as the city's needs. And so we, came from no time limit down to 8, down to 5. And maybe it was a miscommunication, but in our minds, we thought it was crystal clear that it was only on the expansion area. There's zero way that we will touch the putting a time limit on the existing space. It's just not feasible in our business plan. It's not something we can possibly do. So that's how we've always looked at it. And part of the reason is to, kind of keep it less amount of courts, less time, was for the investment, so that, when housing does come back, we'll be able to switch over to that use. And just for a little history, you asked a great question. We have not submitted a plan for housing. I'm going to get back to that because I'm just going to finish real quick. So next slide, please. We understand planning staff's recommendation. Again, I think just the biggest thing is that it was news to us when we saw the conditions that the existing pickleball facility would have a term of 5 years, when that is not the case, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to us when badminton itself does not have any term limit. So what are you going to do? You're going to have an empty building except for badminton. So I don't know if I could have another minute or.
If you can take a minute to finish, yes.
Okay. Aside, finish up real quick. So we are requesting that we be allowed to maintain, get our expansion area for, ideally, we were fine with 5 years just for that area. We wanted to work with the city. But when we were discussing, this new condition that would be on the entire project, we were under the impression that you can't split a permit. And so then we said, okay, well, then we have to ask for the entire permits, the entire pickleball facility to have no term limit. We are fine, with our original agreement that 5 years for just the expansion area, less than ideal. Spirit of cooperation, we understand. So my whole team is here to answer any questions. We'd love to talk to you about that. And thank you very much for your consideration.
Okay, so I know I have a question. So I'm going to start with my question for you is that, is the property just one parcel or is it 3 different parcels or 2 different parcels as far as you know?
It is one major parcel. There's 2 APNs, but it's one
okay.
Parcel.
And
legal
then
parcel.
And then let's say the commission or whatever votes to, let's say you get 8-year term for the whole thing. Okay, now you could reject that, but that wouldn't affect the badminton, right? Badminton is separate business, separate entitlement, and it wouldn't affect their termination point.
That is correct.
Okay, so then my question is, if you were to start a second business, call it Hub 2, and Hub 2 is now in charge of the expansion, and it comes in as a brand new applicant, and says, I want to put, let's say, 20 court, 9 courts, whatever, then the term limits they would give that Hub 2 wouldn't affect the Hub. It wouldn't affect that because it's separate business, so it's separate applicants.
That's what we would like. That is not what staff is recommending.
That's what it says, okay. But then would Hub 2 in that, question be okay with doing the public works improvement or whatever else that's needed to bring that upper portion to a condition where it needs to be?
I'll tell you, it's less than ideal because in this lease, we have termination rights. That is not a normal thing. We mostly do shopping centers, and most of these leases have no termination rights because the tenant, once they go in, they spend a lot of money and they don't want to be forced out until their term is up. And so the goal is working together, not spend, so much, so that we can have those termination rights, so that we can tell the tenant when the market is correct for housing. Sorry, we're switching uses. I don't know if that answers your question. It depends on what the number is. I mean, ideally, it is, not
At some
going in.
point, it may make sense. It may pencil out.
Yeah, because it's temporary. I mean, in our mind, it's still temporary. We're asking for longer term, but we know that housing is the right thing. And so it's silly to us to put in brand new ADA compliant ramps. And, in our experience, they're at least $25,000 each. And then, you're going to have to redo them when you do a housing project. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions? Vice Chair?
Can you help me understand? You said you were okay if just the new courts got 5-year. I don't quite understand that. Like why is that okay in terms of like the business versus having it everywhere?
Sure. So I guess that it wasn't going to cost us very much to put in the additional 9 courts.
Mm-hmm.
We worked with city staff to kind of ensure, hey, let's, allow it to be a shorter term and not have all these offsite improvements, other improvements that, could normally be required on a permanent tenant. And so it's just part of a business decision that we would, be okay with that in order to have any chance of getting approval.
Got it.
Staff support ideally.
Okay, so the incremental for this is small, and so if that went away,
Not a big deal. Yep.
got it. Okay, thank you.
All right, okay, Commissioner Craig.
Yeah, so I guess I would just ask along the same lines though. So if there is an expiration date on the existing, you said it's not feasible with your business plan. What is that? Just a question of loans, the loans that are needed to make improvements, paying off the loans, and you just.
No, there are no loans, just the business plan of being able to keep an occupant in that center and not have it turn into something pretty blightful. So if they left in 5 years and it's unfeasible to build housing, then we're gonna have that same problem we had for a year or two, and, we just.
Well, if we do approve, if we do go with the staff's recommendation, and we say an expiration date on all the courts, then what happens? Are you guys gonna close up shop and?
No, we just won't move forward with the.
You just wouldn't go with the expansion?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
So just to be clear, the thing that you're worried about happening is that you get a 5-year time limit. In 5 years, the city does not want to renew it and they essentially shut you down.
Correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Gissing?
Yeah. So you're representing the landlord,
Yes,
the owner of the building.
yes.
Okay. So, I go back to my first question, is like, I like the idea of the whole thing, okay? But, how seriously is the landlord considering in the future to move towards, I mean, I understand from planning, from planners and the city about where we stood on it being a mixed-use residential high density. I get it. I was there when we put the housing element together. But you never submitted an application. It was always, in my mind, somewhat speculative. It's like, there was this empty building. We put the maps together. It says like, that's a great place for high density. So we rezoned the whole thing. But I've never heard from the landlord. You guys have had talks, but the commission has never heard directly from the landlord saying, we really want to do this, because it doesn't sound, from our distance, there's never been any activity, from where we stand. So my kind of question is, I don't know if you can answer it, is like, how serious are you potentially, now that you got the hub in, and potentially 3/4 of the whole thing being used, that you would look in the future, 5 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line and say, we really want to go to the high density mixed use?
Great question, and we are very serious, and that is why we've been insistent on all of our leases, we have termination rights. Again, that is a very uncommon thing. If we put in Target there, no termination rights, but we pick these uses because they don't have as much investment into it, and we have the rights to get rid of, to terminate them and do housing. And we're dead serious. We are very, very involved, myself and Kelly, in the general plan amendment, in all of the test studies, and all of the, I can't remember the name of the design standards. And so, I mean, we've been active. We've been, came up for meetings, I have many conversations with staff about how we can make sure that the zoning code and the design standards actually work in a real way, so that we could build something on there. We actually signed, we got almost to a lease. We had a signed LOI with a large national multifamily developer. They're working on a lease. Market fell apart, and they're just like, zero chance this is happening. So pencils down, we're not doing anything. So it's the highest and best use. There's no question for that. We're, want to do what's good for the city, what's good economically. So it is definitely the long-term vision. It's just that, we have to be realist, and it's not there today.
And that would include that concept was to knock down the building, right?
100%, knock it down and do, full 75 units per acre and, make it just a proud, exciting project for the city.
Right, I get it. So the other thing about when the planning department said, we have to do these, if you want to do the whole thing for the hub, they're all upstairs, putting in 20 more courts and food and drink and the whole thing. And so you'd have to come in through the front entrance and you have to change the parking lot and the access and all that kind of stuff. Based on that information, did you do an estimate of the cost that would involve and then decided that was just too much for you to do?
It was a preliminary estimate, but it was more wanting to work with the city. It was more of relationships are very important to us. We know what our long-term goal is, no offense, Pat, but it's housing. And, the best way to keep that relationship is to work together on your interim use. And so I think it was more important to us, hey, if you're not interested in this, then, I don't even need to do that much studying because I want to keep the relationship.
I'm done.
Any questions? Okay, Vice Chair.
Different question. If the hub is going to be there for years, would you take one more voluntary action and paint over that awful Fry's Electronics? I'm serious.
On the front?
Yes.
Yes.
The gateway hub to the city. It's been closed for 5 years. If it's really going to be there through 2030, can you paint it over, put a banner up or something on top of that?
Absolutely.
I know you say no exterior improvements, but if we do approve this for 5 more years or more, I would love to.
Paint it and do it right.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sorry that it hasn't, I'll be honest.
No,
It's something we should have done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I actually have another question if anybody else.
Any other questions? Does it involve fries and burgers or?
No.
Go ahead.
It was the question about the alternative, the Plan B or whatever it was. Would you prefer us to approve, what's the resolution tonight, or wait the 6 weeks or 8 weeks to evaluate the question of the long term? Because we can continue this. I forget exactly what that is, but we would continue this until we evaluate what the implications of a long term. Is that right? Is that right? And that would take 6 to 8 weeks.
Yes, as City Planner Larissa mentioned, and as the engineer Roger Storts, we'd have to come back with new conditions and improvements. I'm sure the landlord would have to consider the extent of those improvements. So,
okay,
to affirm, it would have to come back.
So I guess my question is, are you interested in that continuation to look at that, or you're going to take the five years?
We would not take the 5 years. The way it's presented, it doesn't make sense. So yes, ideally, we would take, that'd be the best option. But I guess we're just having a hard time understanding why there'd be additional conditions when it's retail now. Retail has, I forget, it's probably 4 times the amount of traffic than what we're proposing. And so I was surprised, wasn't sure that would be needed, but that's the only option that we could consider.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Now we're going to go through the public, members of public. I guess everybody's here for that. So if we can start.
Yeah, Donna Strauss.
Welcome and thank you for waiting this long.
Thank you very much. Good evening, commissions, ladies and gentlemen, the hall. My name is Donna Strauss. I'm a proud Campbell resident and local business owner. I'm the founder and CEO of DinkDate LLC. It's an AI-driven pickleball dating application. Its core purpose is designed to connect like-minded pickleball enthusiasts based on one shared interest, pickleball. I believe when you combine one common passion and play, it will build a healthy foundation on and off the court. I first picked up a paddle about 2 years ago. What started as a fun way to stay active quickly turned into something much more. It became a huge part of my life. A way to stay active quickly turned into something much more. Pickleball brought me fitness, friendship, and a renewed sense of joy. And yes, I did learn to play at the Hub. I'm spoiled because it's about 4 minutes away from where I live. The Hub means the world to me. It's more than just an indoor facility. It's welcoming, safe space that brings people together from all walks of life. I've met new friends, built meaningful connections, seeing firsthand how inclusive and positive this community really is. The Hub provides incredible value to Campbell. It supports active aging, provides healthy recreation for all ages, and creates local jobs. For many of us, it's filled a huge gap year-round indoor recreation, especially during heat waves and rainy months. I strongly support the proposed expansion into the vacant space. We desperately need more courts to meet the growing demand. More space means shorter wait times, better programming, even more opportunities to bring people together socially, physically, and emotionally. For a city like Campbell, that's a win. Thank you for your time and consideration. I truly believe this expansion will elevate not just the Hub, but the health and connection of our entire community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any questions for her? No, thank you. Next.
Douglas Robinson.
And I just want to reiterate, we're going to go with 2 minutes time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm Dr. Douglas Robinson. I'm a foot and ankle specialist on Hamilton and Winchester Boulevard. Pickleball, why do they call it pickle? 1965 in Bainbridge in Washington, some families developed this game and the dog they had was named Pickle. Pickle used to steal the ball, okay? They had joy. This is something that's like magic to our community and all the communities around. We have people that played ping pong and badminton and tennis. If you have any hand-eye coordination, you get on this court first couple times, you experience joy and it continues. And that's why we are all here, because we get joy when we are there and there's not enough space now. We've outgrown this 2 years and we need to expand. And I've been practicing as a foot and ankle specialist in Campbell since a long time. It's been 35 years. I'm a big supporter of Girls on the Run, and I love this facility. It brings me joy, and I hope you will really consider allowing them to expand. And if you haven't been out there, you should just walk in there. You're going to go. It's like a sea of courts. It's just amazing. And this is the guy, and that's the guy. And I really hope you'll consider letting them do this. It's amazing.
Thank you. I have a question for you. How close are you to the facility?
I'm 3 blocks away.
3 blocks away.
Yeah, so I stop there before I go home.
Towards Winchester.
What's that?
You're towards Winchester?
I'm on Hamilton, right by Winchester.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Disclosure, he's my podiatrist.
Ah.
You probably don't remember me. It's been 3 or 4 years.
I do remember you.
Everybody. I have to visit him. I'm a soccer player, so. Okay. Next, please.
Steve Kagan.
Welcome.
Thank you. Wow, my colleague friend I met at the Hub, Donna, earlier said eloquently everything I was going to say. So I'm not going to repeat all that. You've heard it, but it's the truth. I started playing pickleball actually about 6 years ago. I started out at the community center. It's very limited. It's 2 days a week, about 2 hours each, Tuesday, Thursday, 4 courts on a basketball court, not real safe if it gets a little slippery. And then during the summertime, that's in the main gym. Summertime, it goes to the auxiliary gym, 3 courts. Tremendous wait. People are paying for it. It's not free. Also, there's only about 6, if that, tennis courts in the city of Campbell. No pickleball courts. I used to play tennis. It's very difficult to get a court. So anything else, you have to go outside of Campbell for. And those are all packed also, especially the pickleball courts. Having a year-round indoor facility, not only for the health, the socialization, the what it gives Campbell. You can't pay for the idea that, or the information that people know Campbell because of the hub. It's just a great place. And I certainly encourage that a resolution can come that's satisfactory for the hub and the owners of the building, and so it can be expanded so we can play and not have to watch other people play. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pat Rolfs.
Hi, everybody. Pat Rolfus here. I'm one of the owners of the hub. My partner, Ted Angelo, flew in from Florida for this as well. So basically, we're really proud to be here in Campbell. We're proud of what we built. We've built into the community. We sponsor and put together a Battle of the Shields for the fire department as well as the police department to get together and play. We support schools, we support women, we support kids, and just the community as a whole. So, you know, we built this just for that reason. In 6 months after opening, which was 2 years ago, I went back to Larissa, who's been wonderful, and staff in general has, and said we'd like to expand it. We started this process now over 1.5 years ago. And so it's, you know, it's been a long process, and as, you know, Brett communicated, we've been trying to work with the city every way through the process. We understand the arena numbers, we understand what you're trying to accomplish. So the idea of expansion, you know, we wanted the whole building. Staff came back and said, well, it's going to be expensive because we want this driveway and that driveway. And we know that it's a limited deal. So we worked with staff to go back and forth to scale that back, to come up with this limited number of 5 years. And my understanding at the time, so I think it was just a misunderstanding, is that it wouldn't include the other part of the building. And so basically it's difficult for us to give our business away in 5 years that we've invested, you know, millions of dollars in to be able to create it, to then say, okay, well, to expand it to just 9 more courts, we're going to lose it. That's 36 players just to. So it's difficult for us, but we want to do the right thing with the city, and we want to work together. So we're just here to basically have you understand the business side of it. What we bring to the community, we just had the California State Championships here, and we brought in so many people, and this is the reason why people come to Campbell from Los Gatos, from Palo Alto, from everywhere else, because this is one of the, you know, world-class facilities of pickleball in the world. So
wonderful.
Any questions for me?
Actually, you know, so I want to ask the same question I asked. I apologize, I forgot his name.
Brett.
Thank you. So have you entertained the idea of, instead of expanding your 20-court facility, is coming in with a brand new entity, you know, call it something else, not the hub. And so applying like, hey, we want to put 9 or 10 or 20 or whatever courts in this side. Just like badminton is a different business, this would be a different business. And so this way, whatever you agree on, would then apply to the 20 courts that has.
And honestly, sir, I appreciate you saying that, because I had the same thing way back when, you know, a year ago or whatever, bringing it up. And the reality is that it's not. The reality is it's the same staff. The reality is that's not what the city wanted. They didn't want us to take the whole building. They made it, you know, to say, you know, here, change these parking lots, change this, change that, knowing that ultimately, you know, it may be housing. So that didn't feel like the proper thing to do to be trying to game the system. It's more, this is who we are. Go into our, if you haven't been in our facility, please go in. I mean, yeah, it's clean, it's healthy, it's fun, it's
gorgeous, you know.
We bring so much value to this community. It's incredible. And will housing, and another comment on the housing, it's truly possible to potentially, you know, in 5 years, build that section of housing and leave the recreational set alone. So by bifurcating the CUP, to me, makes a lot of sense, because you don't know what's going to happen. And to give part of your arena numbers may be a good solution, and address that a little bit further down the road, because I don't think with the economy and everything else, and what I'm hearing from your staff, housing's not going to happen, in the next few years. So anyway, that's my thought.
Thank you very much. That was my question. Is there anybody else? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Michael Fox.
Okay. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Mike Fox. You asked for my address. I'm 1843 Lorinda in San Jose, in Cambrian. So I've lived, worked, and played in and around Campbell for all of my life. I want to thank the commissioner and staff for letting us speak, and for all the members of the hub that have come to join us here today to show their support. 2 years ago, the ownership group stepped into an empty warehouse and created what is really one of the premier pickleball facilities in the country. Our members love it. We draw people from all over the Bay Area, and people that fly in for work or to visit family come regularly. We've got people that come from Gilroy, from San Mateo, from Fremont, all driving in to come and play at our facility. Since we've opened 2 years ago, we've had over 17,000 different players play at our facility. We just had a state championship tournament with 650 players that were here for 5 days, staying at hotels, eating at the restaurants, and shopping in Campbell. This is really, in my mind, a crown jewel of Campbell. It is a thing that draws people in, makes people recognize. We had NFL Films here last month, filming a documentary with Terrell Owens that'll be showing during the football season. Donna forgot to mention that she'll be on Shark Tank with a pickleball-related idea that she's got here coming up in later this season. We believe that the community needs this facility. We see people of all ages. We've got an 82-year-old member who won the California Championship, will be competing for a national title. We've got a high school player here who will also be competing for a national championship here later this year. Right? This is something that's really fun and healthy, great for the mental, social, physical being of the community. And we really believe that this is the crown jewel of Campbell.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Is that it? Anybody else?
That's it for now.
So I have a question. By a show of hands, can the people in the audience that haven't spoken, if you're here to support the hub, can you raise your hand? Just want to get a feel. And if you are here to oppose, can you do a show of hands? So, anybody on the line that might?
There are 6 people online. And no one has requested to speak, but there are 6 people online.
Okay, so can they do a show of hands to see if any of them are opposed?
Attendees present, Chris Boso, Mike Navarez, Sean Lamb, Terry Ettinger, Willa Cow, Zach Tone. If you are in favor, can you please request to speak or raise your hand?
Yeah. They don't have to speak.
Or raise their hand. Well, they're all raising their hand right now.
They'll raise their hand. Meaning they're
Meaning
all
they're in
for it.
favor.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that. That was just a unofficial poll. Okay, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Actually, no. Does the applicant want to talk anymore? No.
No, thank you. Available if there's any other questions.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go back to the staff. Yeah. So staff, if you could comment on what you've heard.
Yeah, thanks. Just one point of clarification, technical in nature, is that the site is actually 2 parcels with 2 different APNs. However, the building spans both parcels and operates as a single shopping center. I also wanted to point out that based on the testimony provided tonight, it does seem as though the applicant is supportive and this community is also supportive of the use, especially considering keeping it at a long-term, for a long-term use time length. However, as mentioned as option 2, staff would have to take back the application and reevaluate it in terms of our regulatory bodies, including building, public works, fire department, and also planning. The approval of a non-term limited CUP would require the city to reassess its housing opportunity sites inventory and housing element to determine the long-term implications of housing capacity and compliance with HCD. So that would also be part of the review that we would have to do internally. I also wanted to point out that if in the future, if the 5 years elapses and the market conditions are the same, the applicant could come back and present the same application, which we considered in the same type of way. We do this with all the fitness facilities in the light industrial and research and development zoning districts, as I previously mentioned. And so this is a common practice, as I'm sure you've seen some of these applications coming back for re-up their CUP. And the third point I wanted to make is that if in the future the property owner does receive a viable housing developer who makes a connection, there is a opportunity to utilize a provision within the municipal code under the temporary use section, which would allow the pickleball facility to operate while the city has received and is reviewing an active application for development. And so if in the future the markets turn and the property owner does receive some interest in the site, the pickleball facility could operate under this temporary use permit provision, which would not require a CUP or require a decision by the planning commission. So there's a lot of opportunity to continue with the use in perpetuity outside of this 5-year term limitation that staff is proposing. Furthermore, staff is happy to hear that there's a lot of community involvement and is also supportive of the use for a term limited opportunity. Staff considers it as a great interim use for an underutilized site that has, been sitting for quite some time. And I believe, and then just the last thing to consider is that if the Planning Commission does ask staff to review the implications of a non-term limited CUP, the city still needs to think critically and evaluate any policy implications tonight as well of that option.
I didn't catch that last part, Larissa.
Sure. So if the Planning Commission does direct staff to consider the implications of to review a non-term limited conditional use permit, the Planning Commission still tonight can critically evaluate the policy implications of a long-term conditional use permit in terms of the consistency with the housing element and general plan. That should still be up for discussion tonight.
Can I ask Larissa, what long-term implications are you envisioning here? I'm just
generally what the considerations are from staff, or with that slide that I had shown, was that this site is designated as a housing opportunity site.
Yeah.
And so it is part of the capacity that staff has dedicated towards meeting that RHNA. And if the site is approved for a conditional use permit in perpetuity, staff would need to assess how that implicates the housing element and
we'll talk about that.
Okay. So in terms of what the last part you said, does that mean, are you saying that we could do a resolution to do a non-term limited tonight?
No, I'm saying that if the Planning Commission would like to have staff review the proposal to have a non-term limited CUP, the Planning Commission should
continue it,
but also think about the policy implications can still be discussed tonight. We don't necessarily need to understand fully what the site implications are in order to make those policy decisions.
Do you have any reason to believe that because we give a non-term limited, actually part of the site is already, that, well, we could still leave it on the parcels for the housing element? Wouldn't we? Because it's already not non-term limited, and it's still on the list of parcels for housing element. Is there any reason to think that would have to change and that has some negative implications?
So I'll weigh in. I mean, as Larissa mentioned, again, the Bintang use has been there, separate use, and the city knew that when it designated a housing site. The original pickleball use went in before the redesignation. Now it's a housing site. It's high stakes, as Alyssa mentioned. It's 14% of our arena. We are underperforming. I will say there are instances out there, and HCT does watch, if a city is actively taking actions to not encourage housing or dissuade housing, i.e. rezoning a site, or approving a use that commits it to some long-term that ties it up to housing, we could be liable to an audit and a review. So I think I'll say on behalf of the Department of the City, a long-term commitment to a non-housing site at this site would present a big liability probably for the city in terms of housing.
But that would be something you would investigate if we continue this. That would be something, one of the things you would investigate in terms of the implication of the housing
Yeah, I
element.
mean, it wouldn't, it's in our due diligence to flag that tonight. You need to know that. But if you want to go down that route, you'd refer it to staff, bring back with the improvements we talked about that the Public Works engineer mentioned, and we'd have to evaluate a bit more deeply the housing implications.
And thank you. I'm sorry if we covered this like an hour ago, but can we ask staff to do what the applicant's understanding is and just conditionally approve the new courts for 5 years? Is that legal?
Oh, so that's not the application.
No, I understand that,
Yeah.
but if well, I don't know who I'm asking then, but like, could we all just make a recommendation for that and then staff could take that into consideration?
Making the recommendation for that?
To match the applicant's understanding that they don't want to touch their existing permit,
Yes.
but just
Focusing on the,
put the 5-year term on the expansion.
yes, that is something,
Like it's possible for us to do.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, we could do that with a resolution that would be binding
Tonight, or you mean,
tonight.
so it would be our recommendation, so it's my recommendation, we haven't fully looked into that. We would want to make sure that in doing so, there wouldn't be any inconsistencies with the existing plan development permit.
Existing what?
Existing plan development permit on the property. But that is something we would look into, yes.
So you want to be able to look into that and come back to us. Okay.
So I'd say, I mean, that's obviously a middle ground, right? Yeah. And we talked with the city attorney's office before that as an option. I know that the applicant had pursued that earlier. So I'd say, I think staff and legal advice would be, I mean, there's nothing prohibits that. It's a bit unusual, usually to have a use that operates together as one and have one part that terminates in 5 years and not. That's not industry standard. It happens. Sure. There's nothing in the state law, our codes that says that's totally unpermissible. So to answer two things, one is legally you can go forward with that. Two is to Tori's point, I think we'd recommend if you want to go down a route, make a motion to that effect, continue the meeting for at least 1 month for us to come back and make sure there's no fatal flaws and amend the resolution and put into record everything that's.
You know, I liken this to, let's say you got a house, you got a 3% mortgage on it, fixed, you know, you don't want to get rid of it. And if you put an ADU and they go, okay, we'll give you a loan, but now we're gonna finance everything. I say, no, I don't want to touch my 3% fixed loan. I like it to stay there, you know. I'll pay a little bit higher interest rate on the ADU.
Are we in discussion now?
Yeah, that's good.
Yes. We have
Do you want
been.
to close
We have,
close the public hearing?
I think I closed the public hearing. If not.
Yeah, it was to Larissa, unless Larissa has some more.
Oh, I just wanted to mention that the same policy implications that we would analyze the entire use with the expansion will be the same policy implications that we'll utilize to consider just what you're proposing as a enshrining the underlying use, but a term limit on the CUP. They are, as everything is under a new general plan and into new zoning code, some of our policy documents have changed in our policy directives. So with that in mind, continue.
Okay, yeah, so, okay, so now we are in discussion.
All right.
So, Uh, Anybody wants to?
Yeah.
Commissioner Bookbinder?
Yeah, my understanding of this is that I think we're dealing with the consequences of decisions that we made a couple years ago. That we had this idea that we mostly want to not quite shrink wrap, but not have, you know, a multiple of our arena goal as the buffer for our zone capacity. And we wind up in situations like this where staff is, I don't want to use the word strong arm, but the staff is really trying to nudge people to change a use that they're quite happy with. I mean, there's no point in having a time limited conditional use permit unless you're trying to make sure that they shut down and turn it into housing at the end of that, which is a very awkward position to be in. We wouldn't be in this position if we had way more zone capacity, but we decided to focus on a small proportion of sites, and we'd weirdly be better off in this narrow sense if this were an empty fries that somebody was squatting in right now, which is an awkward place to be. I don't envy staff the position they're in, but I don't think it's, so we just had a discussion about how do we make it easier to permit and build housing here. If we want more housing to sprout up, we're gonna fix this. We can fix the reasons why it is really hard to build housing here, out of scope for here, but we were talking about this, I think 2 meetings ago. There's stuff we can do. I don't think that we are like, I realize we're on solid legal ground here, but I feel like we're like really at the edge of our mandate trying to do this. This feels awkward and uncomfortable, and the extent to which, you know, we can not arbitrarily try and shut down their business because we hope that housing will become feasible in 5 years and we'll try and push them to shut down then. I'm just not comfortable with doing that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? I'd like to weigh in on that and.
Well.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I guess, yeah, I know that we were really, through all those housing discussions, we really got on this side, like, to be a real savior almost. I didn't realize it was 14% of our arena number, but that's even more than I thought, but it was already always really important. So, but I get, so again, I am mainly grappling with, you know, Larissa telling us that if we make this non-term limited, that you have to open up the door, you have to look at everything again. And because it sounds like even the owners of the property are interested and want it and see it as housing, as a housing site at some point. So, you know, I don't know why that changes it, because apparently, even if it's, you know, non-expiration non-term limited, if all of a sudden a housing project develops, then we can still go forward with the housing project there. So, yeah, I agree. Like Commissioner Bookbinder said, I don't envy the staff's position. They're kind of in a tough spot here, and so is the owner. But I guess I would be leaning toward. Man, I don't know what the halfway part is, but maybe, you know, just keeping the existing 20, you know, without a term limit, and then the new ones limited, and still hoping and encouraging as much as possible that the whole site will at some point be a major housing mixed use site for us. So I'm definitely convinced that it's a wonderful facility, great, you know, when you look at that site, how many uses are going to work in there? Thank God that would work. That's awesome. That's really a plus for Campbell and for the area. I can definitely see that. So, and I guess I'm just hesitant to approve or vote for something that makes life just completely miserable for staff, and more importantly, that kind of short changes our major housing goals. So that's the dilemma I think that we're all grappling with.
Thank you.
Okay, so, yeah, Commissioner Bookbinder did a very good job of reflecting my position on this. Thanks, Adam. So yeah, I'm comfortable with this. You know, I'm as painfully aware of the RENA requirement as anybody here, okay? So we went through this, most of us, and I'm very much into housing. Probably there's only one commissioner on this commission that's more interested in affordable housing than me, and you know, Adam gets that honor. So, I certainly understand that, but you know, to me, it's been a couple of years. I drive by there almost every day. It's on my way to, you know, Nob Hill or to CVS or to the freeway to go somewhere else. I drive by there all the time, and there's a very desirable, viable commercial thing going on there that apparently is incredibly successful. Okay, and my take is, you know, it's very speculative that we're going to get 400 units someday. Okay, it'd be a high-rise, high-density apartments and condominiums are like not at the top of the list right now with developers, and who knows when it will be. So I believe under the landlord's, you know, positive, upbeat message is that I get the impression they're very happy with this tenant. Okay, this is a going enterprise. This is a growing enterprise. I would love to see the whole place fill up with the hub, including something where we can get sales tax from it, you know, because I don't think we get sales tax because they pay a membership fee and that's not taxable. So to me, it's, you know, as far as the Gateway, it's like, hey, I think it's a great place to be at the Gateway. You know, there's nothing wrong with that being there at the Gateway. You know, my take on the Gateway is a little bit different than some people. But so I am very uncomfortable with the idea of a term limit. It seems to me the landlord has a choice of kicking his tenants out anyway at some point if he changes his mind. What the other implications are, I don't know, but I think that's why we should probably continue this for 6 to 8 weeks so that, you know, and I don't, you know, I actually don't mind giving the staff more work. That's what their job is. So, you know, I'm sympathetic to the staff, but that's what they're here for. So I would be in favor of continuing this, look into the non-term limited implications, and that we should, I would be encouraging to go that route if there's any way we can do that reasonably. And, you know, even if they could figure out a way to, once they get that, to expand fully, because I like the idea of that whole space being full of people and having a good time and being tens of and hundreds of thousands of people coming there every year. I mean, that sounds great to me. So that's where I stand.
Wonderful, thank you. Commissioner Majewski?
Yeah, I think my thoughts have been stated, but I don't want to kneecap a really successful business that's bringing a lot of joy to our community. I also don't want to give staff extra work and open ourselves to liability as a city, but so I guess, I don't know, well, between a rock and a hard place. So I guess we could find a happy middle ground by continuing the.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Do you want to take a consensus on the idea of a resolution to continue?
Not yet. I want to give a vice chair a chance too.
Okay, all right.
I did want to briefly thank staff and Larissa. This was 2 incredibly dense items, back-to-back technical. Oof. So props to the staff. I think we should continue this. I think we should let them. I'm interested in the city's diligence. I care about our housing numbers. If we do hear some smoking gun, I will be interested to hear that in 6 weeks. But otherwise, like, I feel like we should give a 5-year carve out for these new things. We're not really 50% of this property roughly by square foot is already indefinitely approved. This is adding another 20%. That's 5-year capped. I don't know. It doesn't feel super material to me, but I'm not in the business. I'm interested in what the experts think. But this clearly is making a lot of residents happy. It's using the space like we've all been talking about. It's giving more money to the landlord who maybe someday will invest that in building housing. Maybe in 20 years, there's 500 units of apartments, and then the bottom floor is the hub 2.0 that all the residents are going to. So, yeah, I mean.
With the Chick-fil-A.
It's fine. I have to batch that in there.
Not a drive-through.
Yeah.
Well, it's next to a freeway.
Yeah. So, no, I think we should continue it.
Excellent, thank you. That was very well put. You know, I also think a middle ground is the way to go. You know, I think they were very clear. They don't want to give up their untermed lease, you know, makes perfect sense. I was actually very encouraged when, you know, the owner said, I would be open to developing half of it sooner. And to me, that's great. You know, to me, that's the attitude, because the last thing I want to do is to have our staff go to CHD, you know, and HCD and saying, we have to, you know, reshuffle our numbers. We're going to take some opportunity sites away. That's definitely counter productive as to one of the things that we as a commission are trying to do. But middle ground, I think, would be a happy win-win situation in this case. So if there were to be a motion for continuation, I would be supporting that as
I'll be happy to make a motion.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we continue this until a future date, hopefully near term, that will allow staff to investigate the implications of a non-term limited use for the applicant. Is that good enough?
No, wait, non-term limited or term limited on a portion of it?
Well, either one. I guess we could do either one.
Okay.
Non-term limited for the entire.
I think the thing we're most interested in is not applying it to the existing property.
Exactly.
Right?
And yeah, you know, exactly, you know, I mean, you can go ahead and make a motion you want, you know, I just thought.
Can we look into both aspects of it?
5 versus unlimited? Those are the two choices, right?
Yeah. 5 for the portion and or non-term limited for all of it, or a portion of the new portion being only 5-term limit.
I think nothing should touch the existing unit. The two choices on
That's what I'm
expansion
saying.
are either 5-year or indefinite.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to get the resolution.
Okay.
Is look into both of those choices.
Okay.
You guys got that?
Are you clear, or did you want to restate
Yeah,
it?
I'll say this from staff's standpoint. So 2 options. I'd say putting the 2 together will be very complicated. So, and I think it'd be a lot clearer if you did one motion instead of 2. So option number 1, hearing where the commission's going, would be to term limit on the expansion space only. Staff's advice is, in abundance of caution, to continue the hearing at least for 1 month. We'd amend the resolution, we make sure there's no fatal flaws. We don't see it at this point. We could bring it back expeditiously in a month. Option number 2 is no term limit whatsoever on the expansion space or the existing space. As I said, there are some major policy issues with that, and we'd have to investigate Public Works. That's the 6 to 8 week ordeal. Putting those 2 together does complicate things. It sets expectations very different between the applicant and staff on what's next. So I highly advise you pick one or the other on your motion.
Look, I don't understand why you can't investigate both. I don't understand why you can't investigate.
Well, there's time-based expectations on this. One is a very big time commitment, both for staff and likely the applicant. Taking that back in 6 to 8 weeks. If the intention of the commission is to do the first option, that's 3 to 4 week. That's a few week exercise. We'll be back to you very quickly.
I think the applicant said they were fine with 5. I think we
Exactly,
like.
yeah.
All right.
I wouldn't be able to support.
We'll do,
unlimited
we'll-
and
we'll-
All right,
expansion.
option 1.
Resolution on option 1 to
Yeah.
look at the 5-year term only for the addition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please? Sure.
Commissioner Zisser,
Aye.
Commissioner Majewski,
Aye.
Commissioner Craig,
Aye.
Commissioner Bookbinder,
Aye.
Vice Chair Fields.
Aye.
Chair Kamkar.
Aye. All right, congratulations. So that motion passes unanimously.
And just to be clear, we're aiming for August 12th, Planning Commission meeting,
August 12th.
August 12th.
So it's the next one, not September 12th, August.
Yeah.
That's
There
wonderful.
we go.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for your patience, everyone. All right.
Are we going to stay for the,
We could, actually, we could postpone it if that's okay.
it's 10:20.
I would kick it
Postpone,
back. Yeah.
postpone.
Want to push
Is
it
that
out?
okay? Yeah.
I would move it out.
Okay, so all those,
It was a great report, but
all those in favor of postponing the next item?
Hand vote.
Aye.
Is that okay?
Is that okay? Staff, is that okay to postpone the?
Yeah, 6:15, 6:30 is a good day.
Okay, so with that, I think we are, that's it, right?
Phelps, could you?
Oh, report from our. So the plans of, so report from Community Development Director.
Yeah, I have about an hour's worth of reports, so I'm not gonna hold you
Real
up.
nice.
I'll just say, we're starting work on a multimodal plan, Appleton Avenue Precise Plan. We'll get some dates to you when that comes back. And I'd highly advertise again, if you want to go to a great fall American Planning Association conference, we'll push that out. It's gonna be in Monterey, nothing additional.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can I mention one quick thing?
Yes.
The commissioner on my left is retiring from this commission.
No, we got another month. Yeah.
Well, I know, no. But I was wanting to see if we wanted to get together for maybe a Tuesday that we don't have a commission and get together as a council and have a meal or some drinks together. And
Are there brown applications?
well, that's why I'm bringing this up here, just to make sure we do this
How
properly.
about playing pickleball?
Yeah, yeah,
What's this for?
Yes, as long as you promise not.
because-
Mike's retiring.
right.
Mike can tell me.
Well, yeah, he's not gonna Irish goodbye us. I want us to, yeah,
Legally speaking, you do not talk about planning commission related matters. That is okay.
okay,
Staff can volunteer to monitor.
Yes.
if you like.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Enjoy with you.
sure.
We need staff. So who would plan this thing?
I was thinking one of the next 2 Tuesdays.
Okay. How about we make it, not August 5th? How about August 19th? Or is that too far out?
That's reasonable.
I've got an operation that day.
Oh, okay. So how
That's so
about,
good.
so how about August 5th?
That's next Tuesday?
That's next.
It's
No,
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
No, no, 2 Tuesdays.
But it's
from
not a,
today.
It's not a commission night.
But it's a city council night.
But just
in
get
case
together
some-
for a drink or something.
Actually, city council's meeting on the 4th, not the 5th.
Oh, really?
It's open up.
Oh, very nice. City council meets on Monday
They're
then?
typically on Tuesday. For that meeting, they pushed it to Monday.
Ah, got it. Okay, well, then that's a sign.
If you don't want it to be about you, it'll just be a summer gathering.
That's fine, yeah. No, that's
I
fine.
like the idea.
Yeah, I don't like it about.
Can I email, how do we coordinate a place?
About,
That's a good question.
Yeah.
If you want to,
Can I email Rob and then Rob can
yes,
email
that was my
everyone?
first thought. And then Rob can send if there's
Okay.
any date or location limitations.
Great.
the pub or
Blue Line or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that.
I mean, with something in Campbell, we're gonna support that.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. With that, we are adjourned till August 12th. I love banging this gavel.
That was interesting.